Hello, 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 hello. Welcome everyone to attempt number 2 of Starship's 10th full stack flight. Things are looking, when I look outside it, I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't look amazing, but that's not what matters. We're currently looking at a 55% chance for go. From this view, looking kind of southish, southeast, it's looking good. The problem is when you look west, it's not looking good. But it looks like it might be clearing up, and they do have, a 1 hour launch window today. So that's great news because that means, they can kind of pick and choose when to do prop loading. Unlike the Falcon 9, they can kind of also sit there and hang out with the propellant loaded in the vehicle and kind of mix and match times. So it's not totally like an instantaneous launch window like a lot of Falcon 9 launches. So we've seen that before. So hopefully we do see a launch attempt today. It'd be great. Right now the tall sign, actually, the cool thing, this is a little trick we learned yesterday. At least I didn't realize maybe they've been doing this before. Maybe this is the first time, but when you just go to SpaceX's website, you can actually just see they literally have a countdown clock now. And it stopped at the scrub time yesterday, and then it went to 12 hours yesterday. So those were our first indicators. So it does seem like their countdown clock is actually kind of linked up to mission control and linked up to what we expect in real time. So if you look if you go over to SpaceX.com and look at the just Starship, you can see on the 10th flight test a little countdown clock. Maybe we can pull it up just so you can get a sense of what we're looking at, because it's really small. I didn't realize it there yesterday, but just this little thing right here is active, and we think that's actually a pretty darn good indicator of that they're on track. Now the next milestone, if you actually scroll down on this page, you can get a sense here of what the next thing is. It's not until an hour and 15 minutes until the flight director will conduct a go or no-go for propellant load. That's when we really start to see things become active. But before that, we should start to see the tank farm. We are seeing a little bit of, spool up here at the tank farm, looking ready to start chilling down propellants and get stuff flowing through the pipes here, relatively soon, which means we are looking at a launch attempt today. This is a good thing, at least for those of you tuning in. Hopefully this is what you want to see. This is what I want to see. They hopefully, assuming they don't get too far in today's launch countdown and don't use up too much propellant and too many commodities, the next opportunity would still be tomorrow if they would have to scrub for some reason today. It sounds like last night's scrub reason was literally like a leaky pipe. That's not good. You can't be losing your propellant as you're trying to shove it into the rocket, and at the rates that they're flowing propellants into this vehicle, filling the entire booster in like 40 minutes. Yeah, probably a leak would just be a bad day. So hopefully you guys got some rest last night and are all ready to go for another launch attempt. I did see a lot of comments yesterday of people almost unaware that there was that Flight 10 was happening already. Like, it didn't have a lot of gravitas, a lot of drumming. Oh, insert fancy word there. There just wasn't like a lot of hype for it. That's the best word I can think of. There wasn't a lot of hype leading up to it, and I think it caught a lot of people off guard. People were like, wait, is this actually launching today? So they were a little bit surprised. It did kind of feel like it snuck out of nowhere, and I think a lot of people had sort of dismissed how long it was going to take to get everything online and another vehicle ready to launch after the flight, the S36, the Ship 36 mishap. Which was just, not that long ago. For them to be able to, pivot and be able to get another vehicle on the pad is pretty incredible. So it's kind of hard to keep up with it all, especially if you kind of let your guard down for a minute and just sort of go, I don't have to think about this for a little bit. All of a sudden it just sneaks up on you and you go, oh, it's happening already. This is that shot, by the way, back at the Sapphire. We do have a different shot coming in today. Ryan is going to be tracking from Sapphire today. The views yesterday were a lot better looking south than they were looking north. So his tracking camera just seems to have a little bit better chance of success today from Sapphire. However, it's, I don't know, pros and cons, like it's hard to tell if that's going to be the better view. You never know. You could get cloud cover on one shot and, not that far away, get cloud cover on the other shot. By the way, that shot seems to be freezing. I don't know if we know about that, but I realized that the strobe wasn't going, and there's normally a tiny bit of motion jitter in that shot as well. So but yeah, things are on their way. We're happy, excited to be just kind of hanging out and getting ready for the no-go poll and make sure that things are heading that way. I will keep my eyes on that countdown clock to make sure we don't miss anything. But we have a lot of comments and things from you guys, including a lot of new members that just kind of popped on here overnight or while the stream's been up. So Nitro Lance and Jim Chapman, appreciate that. This is probably the number one question we're gonna try to figure out right now, and I think the answer is to IGGO or IDGO's question. Do we know if there will be a technical talk before launch still? My guess is no, because we heard absolutely nothing about it since that was the strangest, like, you know what I think happened? You know what my root cause of failure analysis was that Elon misread that original solicitation, basically, that said, like, when is the next technical Starship update? I think he maybe didn't quite realize it was asking for, maybe thought it was like, when's the next launch? And he just said Sunday. Then he realized he sort of like made himself out to have to do a technical update, and probably was just like the day on Sunday, just like, oh, whatever, we'll just do a space or something. Threw it up, and then they realized doing a spaces technical talk right before launch is too hectic and too stressful. Too many things going on to just sit and do a technical update at that time. So that's my guess on like what happened, and then they just kind of hope that we'd all forget about it. And that does not seem to be the case. We have not all seemed to have forgotten about it yet. So, Dr. Mojo Martian, if the trip to Mars and back could be shortened to months instead of years, would you reconsider a trip to my home planet? You know, I genuinely have like zero interest in going to Mars. There's a lot of places on Earth I'd rather explore and see, I mean, that are plenty barren and desolate and dangerous, that I would much rather see before embarking on a journey like that. I mean, it would be incredible to see another world, sure, that'd be amazing, but there's literally parts of my world that I'd probably walk around and go, is this Earth already? So I don't know if I need to be doing anything else. There's plenty more to see. I mean, just this summer I went up to the Lofoten Islands in Norway, and that was already like, where am I? What planet is this? It's just stunning and super remote, and you can just sit there and you can be like, you can be somewhere and you feel like why has anyone been here before? Why is a human been out in that field? And it's so remote and so just like, but then there's a farmer there and you're like, people live here, and this is crazy remote, like in the middle of nowhere, but I mean, gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Yeah, I mean, there's so many places like that. Like, I imagine if I wanted just to walk around and drive around like Norway, I could do that for 2 months and feel like I still haven't discovered everything, you know what I mean? Or like experience everything. So going to another planet, I got to do a lot more exploring on Earth. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to travel quite a bit, but yeah. Orion, you're welcome. I appreciate that you guys are here with us watching and ready to hopefully watch this stream. Don't forget, guys, we do pull in the official X feed as well, the official SpaceX stream. We do put that up on air. So you don't have to go anywhere. We'll basically just be hanging out listening to that, because I also like to listen to these launches, make sure I'm not catching any, missing any information that's new. And it's good. It's just good to be able to catch up on that kind of stuff. So we will be bringing that into you guys when it happens as well. Thank you, Tyler, for appreciating the music. Yeah, as we mentioned, maybe if you've been following me on social media and stuff, I've actually been spending a lot of time, a proper amount of time, trying to actually write and record and produce new music. That's a big part of my life still, is playing music, and something that has been in the background of all the videos you've ever seen of mine. So there'll finally be some fresh stuff, more stuff to play live, more stuff to enjoy, and I'm really excited. It should be this year. I'll be tracking drums in Nashville in September, and I'm really looking forward to that. I have 8 songs done, minus the tracking and mixing and mastering. So. Tracking drums. I have 8 songs done. All I have to do is record them and write them, and then the rest will be done. No, there's 8 songs pretty much ready to go. Minus just tracking real drums, not program drums, and then making it sound good. So the Dan Ellenwood, today's questions. What will Tim get excited about? Today I would be excited about a launch, period. That's what it's going to take for me. If this thing just is another watch paint dry session, I don't think I'll be too excited. We have a lot of work here to do, just off air, basically, kind of preparing to, spoiler alert, we're going to be doing like a fire sale. Hopefully not a fire sale. Hopefully just a regular sale. We have a lot of gear. We have like absurd amounts of gear, mountains of gear. And a lot of it's going to go up on eBay. A lot of like old switchers and old encoders and cameras and gear like that. So if you're in the production world or thinking about getting into the production world, we'll have some really good deals up online in the upcoming months. So we have to do a lot of sorting and organizing. When I say a lot, I mean like it's ridiculous. It's like, how did we accrue all of this stuff? So stand by for that. Just letting you know. And that's the type of stuff that I'm sticking around down here long enough to kind of prepare some of that stuff and get that going. So this is from Dave McKeegan. The sooner Musk gets one of these landed on the Sea of Tranquility, the better. Dave, I absolutely agree with you there. The thing to remember with Starship as eventually a moon landing. Well, the funny thing is when Starship lands on the moon, it actually won't be on the Sea of Tranquility, be on the southern pole. Will be the first time Starship lands on the moon. But, there's a lot of work to do before anything like that's possible with Starship. And it's one of those things we're going to see an energy ramp. We're going to see that ramp up of, Starship just growing, and it has to hit so many milestones before we could see a lunar lander. The biggest milestone is and I would try to remind people of this. Don't worry and fixate on dates or timeline estimates. Just focus on milestones. The big milestone we need to see is we have to see, a successful demonstration of relighting again, payload orbital deploy with the dummy payloads, and we have to see clean reentries and pushing and seeing what fails on reentry. I say we as the royal we. I am not affiliated with the official engineering in any way, shape, or form. Let's be very clear about that. But so all of that will lead into SpaceX being able to get one of these into orbit. Once they get Starship into orbit, the next big deal will be getting it back and recovering it and reflying it. Once they can get it back, recover, and refly, then we'll start looking into, oh yeah, look at the tank farm. Then we'll be able to get into the next big milestone will be refueling. Once they can start to refuel Starship, and we actually see Starship to Starship, payload or prop transfer between two Starship vehicles, that will be a big milestone, because then, assuming flight cadence is picked up and assuming they're flying more than once a month and maybe, within once a week, then we're to the point where the Artemis mission might actually be able to take place. Those are a lot of milestones. The crazy thing is, again, that scale up where, this year we're probably going to get, 4 or 5 launches, 6 launches, whatever the small number may be. Next year, if you double that or triple it, we start to see where maybe, they get Florida online, they get, Pad 2 online, they increase cadence. You're going, okay, maybe by the end of the year, they're launching 4 in 2 months or something. You're going, okay. Then all of a sudden from there, it's like, oh, yeah, we just kind of have this nailed down now. We can just land them and refuel them and fly them. All of a sudden it goes, oh, you don't need months, you need days, to kick the tires on these things. And eventually that becomes normal. I know that, Falcon 9 isn't quite flying within days yet per se, like low number of days, but it is within weeks. You're seeing reflights of Falcon 9 boosters, and they have a big enough fleet to be able to fly them multiple times, in a week. So the fleet altogether is flying on average like once every 2 days right now. So crazy, absolutely crazy. So yeah, thanks, Dave. Good to hear from you. Appreciate you saying hi. Let's see. I realized yesterday I absolutely did that thing where I talked way too long, and that was one example. John asks, I wonder if having 2 boosters attached to Starship would make it get to Mars faster. So boosters, in the sense of having side attached boosters, in a heavy configuration like Falcon Heavy, Delta IV Heavy, Titan did that with large SRBs. The normal convention these days is it's just easier to build a bigger rocket. Instead of, especially like Starship, where it could scale from 9 meters out to 12 meters, and you could add another ring of Raptor engines and create, Starship super heavy or whatever it would be, giga heavy. I don't know what they'd call it. That's probably a better way to scale the system. Elon has said a few times that he does not love the heavy configuration like that. So, I don't think we'll see that. And faster, the trade-off with speed to Mars, like you could get to Mars in like a month if you wanted to by deploying, if you had a tiny payload like a CubeSat on a Falcon Heavy or something, you could run the worst angle of the pork chop and do a direct, like you could do it with enough delta V. The problem is it takes more delta V then to get into orbit because you have a faster intercept, orbital intercept. So you have to slow down more because now you sped up more. The trades just typically aren't worth it. Like, would you rather have triple the payload or get there 30% faster? It's like that's the reality. And most of the time they say, well, it's better just to get there with all the equipment we need instead of doing multiple launches. It's better just to get there with a big old ship, and it just takes 5 or 6 months. Tends to be the convention because it's always going to take, at minimum, I believe, I did this chart on a talk, and it's something like 20. Basically a year and a half, but you're only on Mars for like 3 months, and you have a 9-month transit and a 6-month transit, or it's maybe a year and a half. It's a lot. Or you have 26 months basically, with about almost a year and a half on Mars. Like it's not great either way. You're going to be spending a lot of time on Mars. So the only thing you're speeding up is the amount of time in transit, and frankly, that's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. Liam the Rocket Nerds, do I see a 3D printed Starship model? Yeah, I've had this in the background. It's just not been in the shot. And literally right before the show started, I'm like, why don't I have that in this shot? Like, there's a whole tower and everything made by Wigeman. It's like, this is absolutely incredible. Yeah, and the fun thing to remember is that these are to scale. If you see Falcon 9, which we see often, and you think, like, Falcon 9 is actually big. Four people fit very comfortably, way more comfortably than like Soyuz inside the Dragon capsule. And that's a Dragon capsule, and the upper stage of the Falcon 9, this is the booster. Starship is already bigger in just height, just with the upper stage, let alone the diameter, let alone the booster. I mean, it is absolutely massive. It's so easy to forget how big this thing is. 9 meters wide, so 30 feet wide. It's just gargantuan. It's over 120 meters tall, so almost about 400 feet tall. I mean, it's hard to express. And I know we talk about this a lot, and I know you hear things like the world's biggest, most powerful rocket. Cool, but sometimes it's not until you see a person out there working on it or you see them moving it. Like we kind of shared yesterday, the one picture I'll pull up is the background of my computer screen is, I still think, probably the best example of giving you a sense of scale. Is that the shot with the drone when they're first doing the stack of B7 and Ship 20, which was way back in like 2022, just gives you a sense of how enormous this thing is. And I just love that shot. So, yeah, that's always, keep that in mind for perspective. I think that's pretty darn cool. So, yeah, I think that's fun that we do that. Thank you so much, Andre, for your super chat and for saying that my music is fire. Thank you. You can hear sneak peeks of music. Like I did an X post recently with a little bit of flight time with Jared Isaacman with Ghost Squadron. Posted a little thing on X there. There's a video, one of the videos that I posted here on YouTube, something, I don't remember what it was. It has a lot of the new songs in it, just kind of little clips in the background. You can kind of find it if you're looking. Even today at the intro, like after we ran the intro thing, we had like fade out music, and that's like one of the new songs. So there's a lot of new music coming, and I appreciate you guys are excited. When hop is the question. I'd say this one's doing a little more than hopping, super hop maybe. You can see on the very top left corner of your screen, you see a little countdown clock there that tells you everything you need to know. We are T-minus 1 hour and 38 minutes, still holding that time. That time is continuing to count down on SpaceX's website as well. So we are, as far as we're concerned, there's nothing that they are holding or changing the T0 for. If it does change T0, we'll let you know. You'll be the first to know as soon as we know. So keeping an eye on that, keeping an eye on our T0 clock, you should have everything you need to know. Patrick says, Tim, we would watch even if you were just showing footage of Starship sitting on the pad and talking about space and rockets and the cosmos for 6 hours. Never stop. We love you. Well, I really appreciate that, Patrick. That is a good reminder. Sometimes I kind of forget that is just sometimes all people really want to do is just kind of hang out and talk rockets. And frankly, sometimes I feel like I need to have enough rigmarole, like a big reason, a grandiose thing of like, to stream because it's something that I think is important to share. Oh, that's a cool shot. Look, there's dolphins. There's a freaking dolphin following that boat. That is incredible. There's two. Are you kidding me? Okay, we don't need rockets anymore. Scratch the rocket launch. We got dolphins, and that is incredible. Dolphin tracking. Screw it. We're selling everything. We're going dolphins. Going all in on dolphins. Buy. Dolphin stock is way up right now. That is so cool. Oh my, I don't know why that makes me so happy. My parents sometimes do, they snowbird, winter in Florida. And one day our flight got delayed. So I just was like, let's do something fun. Let's just hop on one of these little boats. I think we're in Clearwater. We hopped on a little, just like go out in the bay, and there were dolphins, like 10 dolphins chasing us in our boat for like 30 minutes. And they were just jumping and playing, and it was the greatest thing. Yeah. So we don't need rockets, I guess. We got dolphins. Dolphins are nature's water rockets. That is awesome, actually. Every time I'm out here and I see water, I'm always checking for dolphins, because you do see them sometimes out here in South Padre. That is really, really cool. And look at this epic shot coming back into the reality we're living in of rockets. Oh, man, I love that. Chris Waters, thank you so much for the generous donation. It says, go send this mother. I'm ready. I'm feeling hopeful that we can see this thing launch today. That'd be great. Kenneth Johnson, any idea on how to handle super chats and donations as you become more popular? I feel bad for how bad you feel when you can't do everything. Body double. Also, congrats to Scott Manley for joining full-time YouTube. Yes, let's hear for Scott. He no longer is working his previous full-time job at Apple, and he's going to be doing full-time content creation, which scares the crap out of me. If he's already producing like 2 or 3 videos a week when he had a full-time job, what's he going to be doing? He's gonna cover every topic that's ever been known to humans 6 times before I can make 3 videos. Like, he is just the way he can just sit in front of a camera, hit record, like no script, no research, and just talk about something and be accurate. That's the other thing. If I sat there and talked about stuff, I would be wildly inaccurate. I have to do research and like actually fact check myself. It's just not all sitting up there like Scott the encyclopedia. He is just so good at that stuff, and he's just an awesome guy. So I'm really excited to see what he comes up with. His stuff is always so good at like the reactionary and immediate analytics analysis, not analytics, on something. His ability to break down something that just happened immediately is so impressive. So yeah, he'll always be really, really good for those kind of things. So I'm really excited to see. With a freed up schedule or a little bit more flexible schedule, because knowing him, he'll stuff his schedule with a million things anyway, because that tends to be the way. So, so Kenneth, as far as any idea on how to handle such with super chats and donations, the reality is you just can't. Like, it's unfortunate that the queue just does get long, and it's like the biggest blessing and a curse in the world, because it's literally what affords us to be able to do this. Because again, you might hear a little tone change from me. We're having to make pretty drastic changes because the cost of these launches for us is actually quite immense, and there's an insane amount of investment. Like we're doing like a studio tour and a trailer tour, so you do see what we've really been doing in the last couple of years, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's all poured back into this to be able to do this. And have backups of stuff, such as Mr. T running on a backup system right now because the primary system went down because we've had just the biggest hiccups in the world. The reality is, though, like, yeah, we have to. I can't be just losing thousands of dollars, every time we stream, including like the income. That's what's happened with some of these launches. So you guys make that happen. And we physically couldn't be doing this if you guys weren't watching and if you weren't generous with your time and donations. So it really is appreciated, and it really is what makes it even remotely viable at this level. Otherwise, I mean, the reality is otherwise I'd just be streaming from home, restreaming SpaceX's feed. And it will come to that. Like, that'll be the reality soon when these become more novel less novel, more routine. And that's just what we're going to do, because at some point it'll be, oh yeah, refuel trip 324. Who cares? It'll be like Starlink. We won't even be paying attention to it. It'll just be a normal thing. But for the big launches and these early prototypes and the trips to the moon and humans, and there's a lot of exciting things. The first catch of ship coming back from orbit, being able to track it with, you know, our scopes and everything, and see the heat shield tiles, see how they held up. And I mean, there's a lot of things to really look forward to still. So you guys are awesome. And the fact that we can stream it like this and watch these together and experience history like this is just, it really is amazing. And it's a lot of stress leading up to this stuff. There's a lot of stress kind of behind the scenes on just how do we continue to operate like this. And it's times like this, though, when we actually are together on air, that it kind of all goes away for a little bit. So Max West from SDI to fiber converter fund. I like how we switched from taco fund to fiber converters. I appreciate that. Yeah, we were talking yesterday how we think we have $7,000 or $8,000 dollars worth of fiber converters. It is ridiculous. Kenneth Johnson really screwed up that last message. I appreciate it. You didn't have to explain it. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Squallblot says you should see if Elon will let you write the national anthem for Mars. There's going to be a lot better composers and music writers that I'm sure will be writing the national anthem for Mars. And by that time, I'm sure AI will have taken all the jobs away, and we'll just have to hit go on Grok level 37 and say, make me Mars music, and that'll be it. Hopefully not. That's sad reality. Oh, man. This is from Diego Salazar. So we're not getting rid of anything we're currently using. We're getting rid of things that we aren't using. We have upgraded and changed gear so many times. Like, we literally have, I think, probably 3 or 4 extra video switchers lying around in our presence. We have, you know, networking gear that's no longer, you know, it's not 10 gig compatible, or it doesn't have a fiber port or whatever. Like, there's stuff that's just around, lenses and some gear that we just don't use anymore. You know, Canon mount lenses that we don't use because we're shooting mostly micro four thirds, or, you know, or what have you, whatever the thing is. There's a lot of stuff. So, yeah. And like, it's just depreciating assets. Like, it's stupid, and it's taking up space. It's taking up mental energy. It's taking up, we could be freeing up cash flow and just actually have stuff cleared out of the house. So, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. This is time to get rid of some of this stuff. So that's what we mean. Not necessarily getting rid of gear, or not like spinning everything down per se. War Thunder with Kiwi. Hello from New Zealand. Have you ever considered coming here for an Electron launch? Absolutely. Thank you for your donation. Yes, I have been down to New Zealand, did a tour with Rocket Lab back in 2018. And since have tried on two occasions to work something out with Rocket Lab to make something special. Still really want to do that. I really want to do that. I would just love to see that. I'd love to bring like a tracking camera down with me, and do that. That would be so fun. But I think Wallops is probably a little more realistic. But yeah, maybe if I can make a 2-week round trip vacation out of being in New Zealand, which is an incredible place to visit, that might not be too bad of an idea. Let's see here. Cernan, unrelated to Starship. It is actually related to Starship if we include Artemis 3. But are you excited for Artemis 2 and 3? Yes. I mean, that's honestly, if Artemis 2 happens to launch during the day, just seeing that happen, period, would be good. Like, I think that's exciting alone, let alone the fact that there's humans on board. I love shots of, you know, like SLS during the day looks so cool to me. The way light, like, it's just a different rocket, you know, with the insulation on the foam. Like, you can just see all those details and the big, massive SRBs with all the unique markings. It just has so much more. It's just such a unique looking rocket, you know, and the night launches were cool and fun. And I'm obviously like so glad we finally saw that thing launch in 2022. But honestly, even if there was the same launch and just finally took off during the day, I'd be really excited just for the imagery. So really hoping we see a beautiful launch of that with humans on board. I'm looking forward to that. But Artemis 3, who knows if we'll have a human lander ready by the time Artemis 3 is ready, at least the SLS Orion side of things. But as soon as that does happen, how can you not be excited about humans returning to the moon? I mean, that is a no-brainer, automatic, tip-top excitement. Jeremy Whitley, is it an optical illusion, or does Pad B, well, technically Pad 2, seem taller than Pad A? They're almost the exact same height, more or less. It might be perspective here when looking at it from our perspective. Maybe does that wide angle shot from Sapphire? I forget if that probably shows both pads, right? And you can, yeah, I mean, that's a pretty decent thing there. Of course, pad 2 from this perspective is starting, you know, it's a little bit higher up in the frame, but the base of it's also a little higher up in the frame because it's a little bit further back. So it's roughly the same height, more or less. I think the way the tower starts and everything, I don't know, but I think the peak is almost the same. So, yeah. And thank you for your donation as well. Fred Schmidt said, I heard some report that Starship was going to return to the area of Boca Chica. I thought it was still going to target the Indian Ocean for now. So the booster is returning right offshore, just like the last, you know, we've had a couple of these that do the ocean splashdown. And you can see it. You can watch it come back in. It's still crazy. You still hear the sonic boom, but it does splash down and basically touch down over the horizon from the vantage point. What's interesting is Ryan's perspective on the 20-something floor of Sapphire is high enough that you can see a lot further. I mean, sorry, I always forget the Earth is flat, though, so that's a lie that we can't see more over the horizon from Sapphire. Just kidding, obviously. That's actually really cool. One time we tracked a booster splashing down. We had one at sea level and one up, like, 20-some stories. I think 28 floors. I forget what the number is. And you can literally see how much more of the rocket you can see splashing down. Like the one that's at sea level, you barely see the tip of the rocket. You see the grid fins, then you see it fall over, and then you don't see what really happens until it blows up. And the one that's high up, as you can assume, you see it all the way, like you see it completely splash down and tip over because you can see that much higher because of the higher vantage point. So, yeah, you will be able to see boosters. The Starship upper stage is still landing in the Indian Ocean. DB Explorer, to really get to Mars quicker, you need nuclear, thermal, or super advanced ion drives. That's, I mean, it's all just, technically it's C3. Like it's how much delta V do you have with your given payload mass. So you can exchange a heavy payload for a lighter payload and get more delta V potential, and therefore you can burn longer. You can use more propellant, or same amount of propellant, but do more work to speed up and do a more direct injection to Mars versus because the way it works, remember, Earth's orbit around the sun, 1 AU, is 1.5 times closer than Mars's orbit. So to get to Mars, you don't just wait until the two planets are closely aligned in their orbit. You actually wait until when you raise your orbit, and it's going to be elliptical. It's going to be the lowest point of your orbit will be where Earth's orbit is around the sun. And the highest point of your orbit, as you inject to Mars, will be out where Mars is. Now, the trick is, of course, you have to line it up with where Mars will be. And that's why it's normally like 6 to 9 months is kind of optimal, because it's just right. You raise your orbit. Now, if you want to increase that time, you're basically intercepting your orbit earlier. Again, if we were doing Kerbal Space Program, we could show this all day long. And all you're doing is it requires more energy to do that. You have to reach a higher velocity to do that, but that also means your intercept velocity is higher, so you have to slow down more, which if you can use atmospheric braking, great. If you have the ability to handle higher temperatures and higher heat loads, sure, that's great. Otherwise, if you're trying to get into orbit without doing aero braking, you have to now use more delta V to slow back down compared to a more conventional orbit. So yeah, I mean, it's all a matter of how much delta V do you have? What's your delta V budget with your given payload? So obviously, nuclear drives can greatly increase your delta V with a given payload mass because they're crazy efficient. Same with, obviously, ion drives. The problem with ion drives and anything large is that their thrust-to-weight ratio is so low that it doesn't really work out that great for going to Mars. Maybe if you do like a continual burn almost, but it's such a small amount of thrust. But there's a lot of trades. There's always a trade. That's the one thing to remember with rockets. Whenever anyone has a why don't they just question, remember there's always a trade for the opposite reason of why something isn't done the way that might seem conventional or might seem logical. G Dow, where is the Falcon 9 booster fleet kept? Never thought about the issue reusable rocket creates. You need hangar space. Are they kept horizontal in standard hangars? Yep. Basically, they have Hangar X out at SpaceX. They have the hangars next to the launch pads, and they have another hangar on the Space Force base. And yeah, that's exactly right. They have literally like horizontal facilities storing boosters. I mean, it is just like a fleet of jets, basically. Yeah. This is from Michael Frolic, or Frolic. I forget how to actually pronounce that last name, but go Flight 10, go. Thank you so much for your support, Michael. That's awesome. This is from My Recanto. If the Starships were made of the same material as Falcon 9, would it be stronger? If so, what would the load loss be? Would it be worth it? Would it be more reliable? Love from Brazil. Great question. So Falcon 9 is made out of aluminum. The primary structure is aluminum. Aluminum, pound per pound or kilogram per kilogram, is typically stronger than stainless steel. Again, per given mass. Stainless steel tends to be heavier. However, what aluminum lacks is it doesn't handle high heating loads as well. It also is, it's actually not, it's basically in the thermal constraints of a rocket, you have cryogenic propellant inside. And the stainless steel SpaceX is working with and has helped develop, and the different prototypes or alloys they use actually can be really strong when in cryogenic conditions, and it can survive high heat loads, which is great on reentry. You don't need as big of a heat shield. The space shuttle was an aluminum airframe and required a lot of heat shielding to be able to make it return. Starship, they're trying to make it so, if you lose a couple heat shields, the general fuselage and body, hopefully it's not detrimental to it, because stainless steel has a lot higher melting point. So stainless steel is used for a few reasons. Yeah, even the booster, we see that the booster can come back from and landing without having to do an entry burn. It literally can survive, and you see how glowing red hot it gets. It can handle that heat load because of the stainless steel body. If that was aluminum, it'd burn right through. So, yeah, there's always a trade. Again, always a compromise in rockets. But I am surprised. I would be curious if some spots might be, better suited for carbon fiber, for aluminum. But it seems like the easiest thing to do is just use one alloy, mass produce it. You might maybe have some small tenths of percentages where you could gain some performance by using another alloy, but it's like, is that easier to manufacture now? All that stuff. So always a little twist. Let's see, from Turok, have I seen the Elon's pic from under the rocket? Yes, I did see that. I think I even reposted that as well. That was awesome. Let's pull that up here, because it is really fun to see the shot that was shared from underneath Starship. So take a look at this here. This was shared on x.biz/theeverything app. I mean, come on. How insane is that? Looking up at 33 Raptor engines. Now, don't forget what we're going to see today with the booster landing is they're going to be turning off one of these center Raptor engines intentionally so they can simulate an engine out capability. Because, you need to be able to handle that. If an engine doesn't start up or it has an issue, needs to shut itself down or whatever, having redundant options for your landing burning your final descent and controlling, vital, right? That's vital for the long-term success of the program. You can't have single point failures of, we lost an engine, we lost the whole booster, which is actually, ironically, kind of the case of the Falcon 9. If you lose an engine, you pretty much lose the booster. So Starship will eventually have some built-in redundancy. So today we will see them knock out, if you put that back up on the screen, I'll kind of explain what we'll see here. If you look at the top right, you barely can see my mouse there. That one of the center 3 engines, let's say they knock that one out. What they'll do is they'll compensate by, originally during the landing burn, they light up all 13 of the center engines. So the center 3 in the middle ring of 10 engines. And so again, they'll keep one off, so they'll light 12. And then instead of shutting down the whole middle ring, they'll actually keep this engine, the one closest to the one that was shut down, they'll keep that running to help compensate. Now, again, you might notice that it's a little bit more offset. So they'll have to do a little bit more extreme gimbling of that engine to compensate for the fact that the thrust is now a little bit more offset. But that's what we're looking at here, and that's what we're expecting to see. So, yeah, I'm excited. I love this shot, and it's a really good example of what's going on. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at. Let's see here. I'm going to double check the clock here is still running on the SpaceX site. Yes, it is. So we're coming up on about 2.5 minutes from the go from the launch director to start doing prop load. So again, the tank farm is clearly being active right now. If we do see that, we'll start seeing some pretty serious venting happen, from the tower and from the launch mount as well. So keep your eyes on that. It already looks like there is a little bit of chill down. Maybe I missed that. Maybe that's already been happening on the tower, but that gets a lot more active during the initial cool down as they prepare for flight. So let's see. Let's kind of keep going here. Let's see. From Shane. Good to hear from you, Shane. I grew up watching launches from the Cape in my Central Florida backyard, hearing the shuttle's booster reentry booms, and more recently, the weaker Falcon 9 landing booms from 40 miles away in Orlando. Will Starship sound much louder because of its size, or does distance remain the main limiting factor? Well, both. Good to hear from you. And yeah, Starship sonic boom is substantially louder because it's just more massive vehicle. It's pushing more air out of the way. It's just simply creating a louder, more visceral sonic boom. Now, that being said, sound obviously degrades with distance, right? So it's basically, I'm pretty sure it follows the inverse square law, where if you double your distance, you quadruple, you go down, if you're twice as far away, you basically 4 times or 25% of the energy gets there. So, because it, basically works its way out radially, it will be a lot quieter. So, that being said, let's say something is 3 times louder at the point of, landing at Kennedy Space Center. It should be 3 times louder, 40 miles away or whatever. That should hold true. But obviously, the closer you get to the source, the louder it is too. So Starship will be probably a lot more noticeable. So it's inverse cubed for the sound. I did not realize that. Inverse cubed for sound. I have not heard that before. I did not realize that. Well, that'd be even more dramatic. So the distance really matters. By the way, we are seeing that's more heavy venting, right, from the tower, meaning they are actually chilling down the lines, meaning they must have gotten the go-ahead from the flight director. And we are under that T-minus 1 hour and 15 minutes. So the next thing to look for, if we see venting at the bottom of the orbital launch mount, that'll be a good sign. That is also going and preparing for launch. It's hard to tell. It is hard to tell from this perspective because the Pope vent there is kind of the dominant vent happening. Let's keep going here. Let's see. I'm gonna probably have to do a few more of these. Will the monkey astronaut return to Earth safely? Thank you so much, JT. I hope they don't have anything living other than maybe a cricket that got in there somehow or something in this vehicle, because I would not want to see anything living on that at all. This is from Gina. Cheers to the Dolphins. Yes, let's hear it again one more time for those beautiful Dolphins. I love that. That was so awesome. That, really, really, really made me happy. Andres asks, Bad Wolf asks if I'll ever put my music on vinyl. Maybe this time I will. I had everything ready to do the heliocentric on vinyl and just ended up, for some reason, it just was too complicated. It was like expensive. I will probably consider putting this next album on vinyl. So yeah, I'd appreciate if you wanted that. You let me know, and I will consider that for sure. This is from Engine Rich Combustion. Love that the music at the start of the stream. You said yesterday, it's your music. Where can I hear it? You can find my music anywhere. Again, if it's new stuff, you're not going to hear it yet, but you can find the music on Apple Music, Spotify, wherever you listen to music, all the standard distribution. Like I said, there's new stuff coming out that's going to be a lot better because I actually took time and really actually wrote music instead of just put stuff together for background music. So I'm really excited for that. This is from Nicholas S. Hey, Tim, you've mentioned that people can use your music in their projects before. Is that info found online anywhere? I can't find it on your website and would love that info in writing. So the key is that I intentionally leave my music off of like the copyright strike systems. Like when I publish it, I uncheck those boxes that would normally look for copyright strikes. Because to me, I don't care enough. I'm not sitting there going, oh no, maybe if Pepsi threw one of my songs in the commercial, it doesn't mean that you can legally, I guess the truth is it doesn't prevent someone from getting sued, right? Like if I were to go out there and look for everyone that's ever used my music and I could still be like, hey, you used it inappropriately and manually copy strike each one. I'm not doing that. I don't care, especially if you're a small creator or a college rocket team and you want music for your project. Awesome. That's my pleasure. It actually gives me a lot of joy knowing that people want to use my music for fun or for their own projects. However, obviously, if you run the social media or the commercial accounts for Pepsi or, you know, Chevy or something, then yeah, we'll work out a license deal on that. But if you're just a creator, you don't have to worry about automatic copyright strikes. By the way, again, I should point out, not sponsored by Liquid Death, and it's not a beer. It's just water. I know it looks literally like a tall boy. Just staying hydrated out here in the state that's always trying to dehydrate you. Troy W., thank you so much for your donation. From Cav Pav, do you know where I can buy a Falcon 9 for myself? Definitely not to send my moon landing denier Annihilator 3000. Yes, I know where you can get a Falcon 9 rocket. If you go to a little website called everydayastronaut.com/shop, boy, do we have a rocket for you. You can find our metal Falcon 9 rockets that are, 1/100 scale produced. We literally have all of the parts that you need with the grid fins, all the goodness. Everydayastronaut.com/shop. These, I don't know where we're at with this. I think this is our third run now. We've likely, man, it's being kind of slow. Is that on my end or, you can, I don't know where we're at with these. Yesterday when I checked the Mercury rockets, they were basically almost completely sold out. I think I didn't check today, but we don't have these. I think under accessories you can find them. But yeah, everydayastronaut.com/shop is where you can find the metal Falcon 9 model rockets that you see in the background of our streams often and all that kind of stuff. And we did expand that again this year to being the Mercury collection, which is Mercury Atlas and Mercury Redstone. Same scale, which is really, really, really fun. I don't have any here in the studio. I accidentally shipped myself more Falcon 9s, so I have too many Falcon 9s here. But yeah, if you want, get these, because these are, like I said, I think we were under 50 already at the start of yesterday's stream, so I'll bet we're down to like 20 or something now, or 25. So if you want to get yourself a 1/100 scale metal rockets, these ones, what I like about these ones too is we have the Falcon 9 stands on its legs, which is weird if you have it stacked, like to have it stacked with its grid fins out and landing legs deployed, and then a second stage on top looks really weird to me. So this time with these, we actually have little stands that make it so they make for really good display pieces that way. So they're meant to be in conjunction with the Falcon 9. And someday we're working on continuing the fleet, so you can hopefully have a lot of rockets in your own rocket garden. everydayastronaut.com/shop. There you go. Let's see here. Michael Bond, invite Scott for a launch live stream. I actually would love to get Scott out here. He would have an absolute blast. I don't think he's seen Starship yet. He's only seen a couple launches like up close. He sees them all the time from the Bay Area where, you just happen to see them when they fly in the right lighting conditions. But I don't know if he's seen a Delta II. I think he saw the last Delta II launch. And I think he's seen a couple like Falcon 9s maybe up close-ish. But I don't think he's seen Starship yet. And he should. We should get him out here. Chin May asks, when's the next Elon interview? I don't know. Those always just kind of pop up out of nowhere. The last one, last May, when we had a press opportunity, a few members of the press got invited to what was supposed to be a Starship update in Starbase. I went down for that. It was last launch flight 9. And it ended up basically getting canceled. And so I did an interview, and I only posted it on X because, frankly, it had no new information. Because the point of those interviews with press was to be able to ask about the announcement or ask about the presentation. That didn't happen, so we really got no new information. Was the reality of that one. Which I'm always thankful when the CEO of a rocket company is going to give time to press to get questions. But normally it helps when you have new information and new things to talk about. So that was not the case last time. And that came out of nowhere, found out about 2 days before. So I really have no idea. I still want to know how many Dolphins fit in one booster. I would say at least one, but probably less than 6 billion would be my range. At least 7, actually. I'll say at least 7 dolphins, but less than 67 billion. I have no idea. And I'm glad we don't measure things in dolphins because I have very little sense of scale. Wilbo Baggins, thank you so much. Sabri Saturn, imagine seeing the wide shot with both pads with 2 Starships Super Heavy stacked ready to launch within hours of each other. That would be incredible. The one thing that kind of gives me that vibe is way back in the day, I think it was SN 10 and 11 or SN 9 and 10. At one point during the little hop tests, we actually did have 2 rockets on the launch pad at the same time. And it was absolutely crazy. Yeah, and it kind of gives me those vibes again. Let's see here. Oh, that's crazy. Queso Paso, there's a channel I follow that does super chat catch-up stream video if they can't do all the supers. It works both as means of thanking supporters, but also allowing for more Q&A. That's not a bad idea. I have not heard or thought of that idea. That is interesting. I like where your head's at. Let's see here. And by the way, we know we are on backup streams. Okay, we have. If you're seeing some stuttering on our end, that is because we're on backups of things, and we lost 2 firewalls yesterday. We just have had the gremlins came out this launch for us big time, and for whatever reason, we are kind of riding the struggle bus. But we're working on it, and we'll see if we can continue to improve. I'm actually shocked that these ones aren't holding more stable when they're on air fiber. But working the issue. Once the SpaceX feed comes online anyway, we'll be pulling that in, and that'll be solid for us. So, by the way, we are coming up on ship loading will happen here in about 10 minutes. So that will be the next sign we're looking for. We didn't get too far into fuel load yesterday. Hoping that we get, hopefully we get further in today and see a launch, obviously. That's definitely what we'd like to see. Let's see. Alexander says, would it be better to use a Falcon capable as a shuttle to land on Mars and make big spacecraft with plenty of living space for astronauts and a big spacecraft to ferry the capsule between destinations? Falcon capsule as a shuttle to land. I see. So basically have like a big, Starship land on Mars, use it as a habitat. Don't try to launch the giant Starship back, and then just have a small little vehicle, like a ferry that gets you up to an orbital vehicle. I personally, that would be the architecture I would choose. I would choose a vehicle that can just, launch to Mars and drop off astronauts in a small ferry, exactly like what you're describing, where it takes way less propellant, way more feasible than having to do all of it in one go. So I mean, it does raise, you have more orbital rendezvous, you have issues like that could crop up, but I do think that's kind of the better option, to be honest. Let's see here. Eva F. Dolphins, thank you so much. Ethan Kai asks, can I do a weekly recap like Space This Week? The reality is there are a million channels that do weekly and bi-weekly and tri-weekly and every 2 days posts that do there's so many. Why do we need more? You don't need me to tell you the same thing that 40 other people are telling you about spaceflight. I really like to focus on long form videos. There's a lot of video topics that I still have not seen covered or haven't seen covered in super depth, because I'm such a visual learner. When someone explains something to me, if they don't have visuals that are explaining what they're talking about, I don't learn very well that way. And that's why it takes a long time for me to make videos and for our team to make a video, because I obsess over that. I obsess even like when we have math up on screen. I'm going to write it out and animate it so it follows along with the flow as we're talking about it, so you can follow along and understand what we're talking about. I just can't stand, I don't know, if I just had to pull up B-roll and talk about, a rocket launch this week, like there's a million people that do that way better than I would be able to do that anyway. So, I've kind of intentionally decided to not do that. Let's see. Troy wants to know, any chance of a Hello Moon reboot? I think you're talking about Dear Moon. I don't know of anyone that's considering anything similar to that. I'm afraid that that time has come and passed, and in the future there might be a lot more opportunities like that. Actually, Jared Isaacman responded with a really good thought, and I do think this is a nice. I'll read this on air because I do think this is a nice thing to kind of keep in mind, and I do agree, definitely to a certain extent. Jared, so I basically said, replying to Andrew McCarthy, who is an awesome launch photographer and does great work shooting stuff, had a picture saying, really looking forward to catching a ride to the moon in this thing one day. And I kind of said in a moment of sadness, I said I used to look forward to that thought. And then that's when Jared actually replied to me saying I used to look forward to the thought of going to the moon, as I was led to believe that was an option in the future at some point from Dear Moon Mission. And Jared said this, and I think this is, I agree with this. He said, not that it's much comfort, and you know this already, but when this works, meaning this Starship, when Starship works, it all changes. People won't need to win a Dear Moon contest or be the fortunate few chosen by a government agency. The great adventure will become a shared experience for all humanity. And I agree with that, because the reality is it's cost prohibitive, because if rockets only launch, Artemis launches at so far to be probably 3.5 years between launches and will cost tens of billions of dollars for that launch to the moon. If this thing is getting mass up 10 times cheaper than Falcon 9, or eventually 100 times cheaper than Falcon 9, then everything changes. The economics of it completely change. And it will just take something like that to become a new reality. But we're a little ways between then. So, yeah. I'll keep going here from Christian Sirios. Love your work. Keep it up. Space for everyone. Greatly appreciate it. Really appreciate $50. I didn't even. Geez, thank you so much, Christian. That's crazy. Greatly appreciate that. You are amazing. Thank you so much. Daniel says, here's a little bit to get you out of your crippling debt. Thank you, Daniel. Greatly appreciate that too. Yeah. It's fun to remember. Titus says, hi, your opinion on passive versus active heat shields. I think it all just matters. It all comes down to what's actually higher performing. Like, is an active heat shield going to free up mass and increase performance or not? I do really like Stoke Space's active heat shield concept, because it really does seem to fit along with, there's not brittle tiles that can fall off. It's all just a metallic heat shield that has cooling channels flowing through it that are actually pumped actively as they heat up. It actually spins, the turbine of the expander cycle engine, and literally flows new, fresh propellant. It's like a self-correcting system. So as long as you have enough residual propellant left over during reentry, you have an active heat shield that's basically like passively or like self-regulating in a sense. Really cool concept. Really cool concept. Haven't seen one that smart in a long time. I think that's really cool. Other than that, I mean, as long as you have backups, like I like that they're working on like ablative coating behind the heat shield tiles on Starship, where if you do lose a tile, it's not mission over. The vehicle can still survive even with a handful of tiles missing. Yeah. Sounds like we may have had a slight shift in the clock. Is that true? I might need to refresh. Might have to refresh. I'm still seeing... Well, hold on. Man, oh man. It seems like we are having internet problems here today. Let me see if I can... I can't even get that to work right now. Well, that's fun. Yeah, that might be the cause of our issues. Let's see here. What's the new T0 time? One hour 11. So what is that time-wise? Oh, I think it's actually being updated right now. Man, I'm having issues here on my end. I guess I'll just keep taking questions. Okay. I don't have any other streams open. We do have the TV down on the main floor running. Maybe we can turn that off, free up a little bit of bandwidth. I don't know. That's crazy. I don't know what's going on. I'll make sure like Dropbox isn't syncing or anything. This is crazy. Yeah, we are in a dead zone right now. This is crazy. I'll keep going here. Maybe I'll keep going. Actually, my comments are like, this is crazy. Everything is not working out too well. I'll wait for this to maybe try and improve a little bit. And meanwhile, I will keep going, answering a few questions here that I can. Although I just lost my cue. So I'm just going to wing it. I don't even know if you guys are seeing this at this point. Hopefully we do. Because that is the one thing about the system we have is the final end encoder that gets it up to YouTube is like super redundant with 6 SIM cards and uses Starlink and you know, fiber optic, all the stuff. So if one thing goes down, it should still be able to get it live to air for you guys. But man, we are experiencing gremlins on gremlins today, which is never ever fun. So let's see. Let's answer the question, kind of asking, why does it seem like version 2 has regressed? And the reality is, yeah, I mean, it feels like that for sure. Version 2 has not done successfully what version 1 of Starship has been able to do. Already in 3 launches, we've had 2 explosions before it even got to SECO, to second engine cutoff, and we have one more that did better, but still lost attitude control during its coast phase, and therefore its reentry was glonky, and therefore it did not work out. So yeah, it's kind of crazy that it feels like it's absolutely regressed, and I get that sense. I feel the same way. But the reality is that when they redesigned version 2, they made a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes in the way they route propellant. There's a lot of changes in the way they manufacture. There's a lot of little tweaks here and there, and a lot of things. The SpaceX way is like, get it, do it good enough. Like hopefully get it 99% of the way there, and then we'll fix, on the next iteration, and the next one we'll kind of fix all the little tiny things. And just unfortunately, they've had just weird problems pop up. They basically had 4 different failures because they, S36 failed on the pad. So they've really seen 4 pretty unique failures of version 2. And I think, from what I understand, and the mantra of anyone that I've talked to about this kind of stuff is they really don't care. Yes, they care in the sense that like, oh man, a lot of work went into that one, but none of that really matters to them. None of that really matters to the success of the program. It's not, again, we've kind of been using this analog a lot of SLS. SLS will be flying at minimum, it'll take 3.5 years between launches. And if, let's say, the first launch of SLS after, 16, 17 years or whatever of being, I guess more like 11 years, whatever, of being built and engineered and developed, the first launch was basically flawless. It was very, very, very good. It was exactly what you expect for a flagship NASA engineered rocket, where it launches and it works, and they knocked it out of the park. You'd expect that after, at the time, $24 billion or whatever it was to launch the rocket, basically. Nailed it. Let's imagine, though, that they had just had a little problem and the mission actually did not quite work out perfectly. If the minimum turnaround time, the ideal turnaround is that mission was awesome, the next launch opportunity, it's going to be about 3.5 years between first launch and second launch, with the first launch working well. Let's say they had an issue and they had to re-engineer stuff and fix a core issue of the RS-25 and how it mates onto the rocket or whatever, and they had to actually sit there and re-engineer something and re-qualify. That 3.5 years would likely almost double. We literally would not see another SLS launch until 2028 or 2029. That's just the reality of that. Now, the opposite of that, the exact, like the diametric opposite, is you basically say, we don't really care about each individual rocket. We just care that we're learning. We have the system here to build rockets at a scale that we haven't seen since basically like the Cold War, where you basically had a factory of rockets. They have Starbase where they could crank these things out literally like once a month. And that's their approach. It's a hardware-rich approach. They basically say, you know, like propellant and hardware is all cheap. Human time sitting there trying to figure out a problem is actually not cheap, and they'd rather just send something flying. I mean, the Launchpad 1 here, the original Launchpad, is a perfect example. They could have sat there and engineered a much better Launchpad. And at first, it almost seemed like they engineered too poor of a Launchpad, and it was absolutely not capable of flying again. Like, it was a disposable Launchpad. It ended up being just barely good enough to keep up with this launch cadence. And good enough to get a vehicle on the pad and get working on it, right? So that was their key is, can we just get a rocket flying? If they had waited until they had all the knowledge and all of the data and everything collected to be able to do, by the way, the official T0 time is 6:44 p.m. So you see that reflected in our T0 clock, which is updated. That is the time we are looking at for a new T0. So it only moved back 14 minutes. They're probably just dodging weather and trying to just make best use of the range time. They do have a 1 hour launch window today. So between 6:30 p.m. local CDT there, you see it kind of below the countdown clock, and 7:30. So as long as this thing takes off between, that's kind of the launch window. They're aiming for 6:44, kind of right. It's still in the early start of that. And sunset, by the way, is 7:54. So we're getting close to being in that golden hour, which would definitely make a very pretty launch. Okay, let's keep going here. Yeah, by the way, okay, there we go. I finally am seeing the Starship SpaceX page working. Man, I am gremlins. And I think I have things back in here. So, but yeah, like I said, though, back in the, I'll just finish up my little rant here about, the SpaceX approach versus the more traditional approach. In the long run, in say 10 years, 20 years, which is the viable option? Is the viable option that you had the first 5 flights of your rocket work flawlessly? Let's say SLS launches 5 times and all of them were perfect, but it costs you, if you end up like accounting for everything, the development, the recurring costs, all the people, all the engineering, let's say by the time it flies 5 times, the average cost is $10 billion a launch. Is that better than in 10 or 20 years, you lost your first 12, 15 rockets? They were completely prototypes and they cost you, a couple $100 million. And you invested, let's say, $4 or $5 billion into a factory that can build these at scale. And all of a sudden now, like, the building and the development of them is basically, who cares? Like, it's secondary, where there's a system that works and it's flying and they achieve the goal of making a rapidly reusable rocket. I mean, I think in the long run, in the very long run, when you stop thinking about now and what is best. And I know this sounds like I'm drinking Kool-Aid here, but I really do think if you have the funds to do this, and this is privately funded, people say, like, I don't want my taxpayer money being wasted on these rockets. It's not honestly really paying for these rockets. There's a fixed price contract for the Artemis program to procure a service. So far, the history with SpaceX procuring a service for NASA has been outstanding. And I'm just saying this objectively. Like, if you look at the commercial resupply contract missions, the CRS missions, they've outperformed the competitor contractor by a mile. And same with the human launching by 10 miles, because they're the only ones still flying humans operationally for NASA, and Boeing being the other operator. So far, when you hand SpaceX a contract and say, do something ambitious, then they've succeeded. And they have the proof in the pudding. Now, with Artemis mission, people look at this and say, man, these rockets are never going to land on the moon. It's like, these aren't the rockets that will land on the moon. These are prototypes to learn how to be able to do the things they need to do to make it so they can land the world's largest thing ever on the moon by a factor of 100. It's a completely different ball game, basically. And it's hard to understand. It's hard sometimes to appreciate, but it is different. And if you have the money, basically SpaceX has a money printer in Starlink right now. They have the funds to be able to do this hardware-rich approach and just go crazy trying to build this thing out. So that's long rant over. Let's see if I can actually get these comments working again here. Let's see here. Mike from Big Mike Maxi. Awesome. Thank you for your 37 months of membership. Launch goals: booster landing burn with 2 engines, Starlink deploy while suborbital, or Starship SLR, relight, test of the TPS tiles, and ship flip. That's exactly right. Great summary. That's exactly what we're hoping for today. Is basically exactly that. Seeing all the things that we haven't seen version 2 of Starship do, which is deploy. So far, nothing has properly really deployed a payload at all. They have only done 1 relight test. That was Flight 6 of the Raptor engine on basically in its coast phase. And we've only seen, a couple soft splashdowns. We've seen Flight 4, 5, and 6 were successful splashdowns. And with varying amounts of success. 4 was like absolutely burned through and looking very haggard by the time it landed. Flight 5 and 6 looked a lot better. So hoping to see those, hoping to see it at least perform as well as the version 1 did, with hopefully being able to relight Raptor and deploy payloads today for sure. And yeah, if that booster test is successful, pushing the booster to the limits, that is awesome. Tricky Claw, go Team Space, go Tim Dodd and crew, go Starship and Tia Choppy. I don't know what the last part means, but thank you so much. And unfortunately, I don't think I can get this to refresh right now. I think it is our internet problems, but I'll keep reading your comments. Let's see here. Bill Skilly says hello from Norway. Glad to hear you have visited Lofoten Islands. Why increase to 6 vacuum Raptor engines in V3 if 3 can get to orbit? So if you stretch the tanks and make it so there's more propellant on board, eventually you can, if you can't burn fast enough and get through that propellant fast enough, your trajectory can basically sink you back down. So if you look at, for instance, a single RL10 engine has actually a very low thrust to weight ratio. Lots of times when ULA launches anything with an RL10, they heavily loft it. They'll throw it up way higher than you normally would, so it has time to basically complete, its burn that it needs to do before it would re-enter the atmosphere. If you add, let's say, I think they're planning to stretch the tanks like 40 or 50% or something. Like they're going to add a lot more propellant, hundreds of tons of propellant, in order to get through the burn stage completely and actually being more efficient, because you're burning it in a without having to super loft your trajectory. You can actually just increase your performance in that manner. So yeah, it seems like you're adding about 6 or 7 tons of mass in the engines, of dry mass. But if your burn can be cleaner, and you added hundreds of tons of propellant to the vehicle, you can just completely increase your overall performance. Santi M became a member. Thank you so much. 1992 JMO asks, so the booster is not being caught. That is correct. Booster is not being caught today. They are doing the same thing they did last time, which is basically stress testing the booster for engine out capabilities, putting it through its paces, really giving it a real workout today, so that if something were to happen on upcoming missions when they're doing a catch, you don't have this 200-ton giant kinetic impactor heading right towards your precious launch pad. So yeah, actually, wait a minute, our clock is different than their clock. What happened to our clock? Maybe it's internal here. Oh, nope. It's just updated. Okay. So they have again moved to basically looks like 6 or 5:58-ish, 5:59 local time appears to be about what this is doing. So, yep, 5:59. I don't know if I missed a SpaceX tweet. Probably have. Yeah, again, internet issues. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Yep, so looks like our time is correct, unfortunately. But again, it's good that they're moving it before they begin prop load. Just means that they're going to save their commodities and not waste propellant just loading it on arbitrarily. So let's see here. Let's keep answering questions from Christopher Big Tank Newman. My apologies if you've been asked this before, and thank you for your donation, by the way. The division and polarization of these flights aside, if approached by New, I think Blue Origin, would you accept a flight on New Shepard? Yeah, I mean, I probably would. I wish My only gripe with the New Shepard program has nothing to do with the flight profile and the hardware and Blue Origin as a company. I think they're fantastic. I really loved my time there when I toured their New Glen factory in Florida. It was incredible. My only gripe is actually oftentimes when they're talking about these suborbital launches, they keep using like historic and all these grandiose terms, when really I think they should just be selling the fact that they're producing an incredible experience for people. People can do something today that was not an option 10 years ago. You could not buy a ride above the Kármán line. There was no option to do that. And they have that, and you can experience and get a life-changing view of our planet and see something that very few people have still seen. That's it. That's what it, just say, this will be the coolest experience of your life. We have a vehicle that can get you into space. Absolutely. That's incredible. 6 people can sit in this thing. It'll shoot you up on a rocket above the Kármán line. You will see the Earth. You'll see the blackness of space. It'll be incredible. You'll experience 4 minutes of weightlessness. You don't need to sell it any more than that. That's already incredible. Like, that's so awesome. We don't need extra descriptors of this historic launch is making these astronauts explore this. It's like, stop with that language and just focus on like how cool this actually is. If the talk behind Katy Perry and the pushback with Katy Perry, I think it's because it just felt disingenuous that like Katy Perry is now the latest astronaut to go and explore. And it's like, no, she saw something awesome. She did something exciting and fun and entertaining and maybe life-changing. Like William Shatner had a life-changing experience. I think a lot of the people that have flown on New Shepard have experienced a pretty substantial overview effect where they looked out and they see something they've never seen before with their own eyes and witness something new that it's just life-changing and awesome. Keep it at that. That's great. That's all it needs to be, So and if I did get the opportunity to fly, I kind of had an opportunity pop up with the Moondao community, which was amazing. They ended up flying Kobe from Dude Perfect flew on New Shepard because of Moondao community, like literally paid for that ride, which is crazy. I had my name in the hat for that, and I kind of pushed it off and said, like, give it to Dude Perfect because I really think they'll reach more people. And I'm glad I did because that video was amazing. Like it's great. And they again did the thing of like, Dude Perfect was like, this is the coolest thing that any of us have ever done. Exactly. That's all it needs to be. And that's plenty. That is plenty. It doesn't need to be anything else. I hope that rant makes sense. Let's see here. Terry Bretz, thank you so much for your generous donation. Tim, you're the OG space streamer. Others may try, but nobody brings the passion, context, and banjo vibes like you. Thanks for being the 4K gold standard in covering Starship. I appreciate that sincerely. Of course, as we're saying this, I'm half stressed out, though, just since our stream is not having a good time today. So, I wonder if it's almost worth having a little mini powwow and seeing if it's worth trying to reboot our SAP link and just going to a shot of me hanging out here and talking. Okay, cool. Sounds like they're working the issue. I trust my team. They're amazing. Let's see, from Michael Shane Cooper. I've learned so much from you and always look forward to your streams on these launches and send the link to my friends. I appreciate that, Michael. That sending it to a friend is greatly appreciated. Let's see, Rantos9. Is there a place where I can easily see the upgrades made for this flight? Yes, SpaceX has a nice article about this on their website under spacex.com/updates. They basically tell you exactly what happened with Flight 9 and the Ship 36 anomaly as well. And, basically, what happened is if you think about, sorry, I'm hearing from the producer, what happened on Flight 9 and all the little upgrades, they basically spell it out on their website. I would go to it right now, but we are rebooting our internet as we speak. So I'm just going to keep it here for now. That's the best place to know the upgrades. Basically, the diffuser. So don't forget, Starship does something pretty unique. I mean, the Space Shuttle did it. Delta 4 and Delta 4 Heavy have done autogenous pressurization. But basically, when you drain a liquid out of a can, let's say this can of delicious water was sealed up. Right now, you can treat the air inside there as ullage gas. There's air that is displaced, as the liquid drains, there's air that makes up that volume now, right? If you seal this off and you try to drain liquid out of it, you'd end up, the can would like crunch in. So in order to avoid that and actually to keep positive pressure, they actually keep the tanks at something like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 bar of pressure. They pressurize the tanks. It helps push and feed the fuel into the inlets of the pumps of the engines. And in order to do that, you have to have a fuel, or a propellant or a gas, a gas that's not going to react with the opposite propellant. So obviously you wouldn't want like oxygen flowing into a methane tank. That could be very catastrophic. So what they normally do is they use an inert gas like nitrogen, or they might use helium as a pressurant. So basically you're just filling, and the good thing about nitrogen and helium, especially helium, is you can compress it so much, and then it's just very sparse. It's very undense, and so it can fill up a lot of volume while being able to be compressed down really, really, really tight into a very small COPV. So you can store a lot of it in a COPV at very high pressure, release it into the tank, and it'll fill that void as they drain the propellant. Now, what Starship's doing is different. They're trying to avoid having other gases like helium on board. Helium's expensive. It's a rare. It's pretty rare, and it's kind of hard to get nowadays, and it's just the cost is going up. So they're using autogenous pressurization, meaning the gas. They're putting gaseous methane in the methane tank. So as the liquid is drained, to backfill it to use as the ullage gas, they're just pumping back in gaseous methane. They're actually tapping off of the Raptor engine from the pre-burner to actually put propellant back in, a warm gaseous propellant. And that's what they're doing. That's a little bit different. And so you'll see, what was the actual question? Upgrades from Iterative flight. Yeah. So to be able to fill in, especially the methane tank on the very top, there's a thing called a diffuser that helps just kind of get the ullage gas into the methane tank. And that actually just simply had a leak. And that's one of the things that caused the failures of Flight 9 and all that stuff. So that was one of the upgrades. Also, fire suppression and other systems in the down in the kind of the attic area between the engine section and the oxygen tank. Still has kind of had some issues. They added additional fire suppression. So they're just working through little tweaks here and there. Otherwise, it's almost more or less the exact same flight profile and the same hardware as what we saw for Flight 9. So nothing too crazy yet, and that's kind of wild. Let's see here. Let's keep answering a few more of your questions. We had Michael Casey becoming a member. Thank you so much. James Barclay. This is a $50 super chat from James Barclay. This TOS too viable to allow it to fail. TOS. What's TOS? Table of studies. Trades of standards. Tables. Trockets of shade. Too viable to allow to. I'm not sure what TOS is, but the fact that you sent $50 to make me befuddled is, I hope, worth it, and I really, really, really appreciate your support. That is great. I'm sure I'll figure out what TOS is. Trades of stink. Somebody help if you're out there. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I am seeing comments come back in now, so maybe internet is coming back. Oh, there floweth thy comments. Wow. We are so back. I think things are booting back up. And there we go. Things have booted back up to some degree. Oh, thank you guys for bearing with us. I thought these growing pains would definitely be over by now, but here we are. You just never know out here in Starbase when things just decide to not work. It happens so often. You fire it up and it's like, yep, not today. Nerf Maniac, I love the new Mercury rockets. What's next? Gemini. Also listening to this as I'm about to run a spotlight on Chris Brown at Fenway Park. That's crazy that you were doing that yesterday, and here you are again today. Thank you so much. I think Gemini might be next. We're doing a Falcon Heavy and like an expansion pack on our Falcon 9 that I think will be really cool as well. So we have a couple things. coming up for the model rockets. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now. Let's see. Oh yeah, terms of service is what people are saying for TOS. that is what I was trying to think of what TOS could be. I don't think it's the terms of service were too valuable either. To this TOS, still confused by that one. Let's see here. From THASZZZZ. Tim, firstly, thank you so much for bringing space down to understandable language with such enthusiasm. You are so welcome. And part 2 of this. Secondly, how is all the cables and equipment in the tower protected from the sheer temperature and fumes of the engines when it ascends? Thirdly, always watch with a lot of fun from Netherlands. Oh, that is awesome. I do love the Netherlands. How do you keep everything safe? The number one thing is most of the plumbing and piping is on the far side of the tower. I think there's just extra, literal shielding around a lot of vital things, raceways where the piping and the cables run through. But some of it has to get replaced and repaired after each launch for now. So that's why, part of this pad 1 is to see what's failing. Where are things getting fried? Where are things getting shaken apart? What things are failing? And so, to be able to kind of learn these lessons, then implement those lessons onto Tower 2 and onto Launchpad 2 is going to be great. I think we'll see a lot of extra resilience, a lot of things that are like, oh, we learned from launching Starship 10 times or 11 times off this pad that we really need to do X, Y, and Z to really protect these things and make them stronger and better. Let's see. Let's keep going here. Thanks for the great questions. Let's see here. This is from Cernan saying, even though this is a stream with 22,000 people, I think now we're, 40,000. This must have been a while. It always feels like we're just talking face to face at like a bar, just two people chilling. That's literally exactly the vibe that I've always wanted for these streams, is to just be conversational and just be like, we're old friends hanging out. Like that's, oh, look at that. That is a 6 shot of, that might be SpaceX's helicopter on the top, and going to the right was the Coast Guard's helicopter. So that is awesome. So that might mean they're getting ready to get prop load going. Do we have any shots looking west? I would love to see, once we have a chance to look west, see if we can see how the sky's looking. I suppose I could also open my window shades here and get a sense of what the weather's like out there. But how is weather? Do we have a weather report down at the old tuna down there at the production trailer? Let's see here. We got a maybe. Let's see here. Ryan Heckman, thanks for all for you and your team, all the hard work you do. What do you think the odds are for success meeting all objectives? So there's a look at the weather now. It's looking decent. I don't know. I'm pretty decent at looking at rockets and a rocket orientation specialist. However, I'm not a meteorologist or a meteor or an ologist, not even a proctologist. I don't have any ologist in my name, so I don't know. I don't really know too much about what I'm looking at here other than that looks decent. That looks pretty good. You can kind of see some blue. I don't see any crazy thunderclouds. Cumulonimbus. We don't have any large cumulonimbus lightning clouds. That's actually something I should be better at now, because I am working on a video talking about the range and specifically about like weather and personnel and all those types of things with Space Force. And there is a whole lot of science and a lot of people that are really smart that literally just watch these weather systems, and like the art of trying to thread the needle sometimes to be able to get through between storm clouds is always impressive. So. We might be coming up on prop load now, but not quite. They are go for prop load though, according to SpaceX. Is that what I'm hearing? I would love for that to be true. Trying to see if I can. Yep, go for prop load. That was 8 minutes ago. SpaceX did report they are go for prop loads. That was the T-minus 1 hour and 15 minute mark. Probably got moved around as they kind of shuffled the T0. So go for prop load for a 6:59 T0. So yeah, we are under 1 hour. Things are looking good. I like this weather. Seems to be okay-ish, apparently. At least they think so. and they're going to continue going for it. Let's see. Q back Izzy says, why are they not painting Starship white or black like all the rest of existing rockets? Is it a money thing? So a good story comes into mind where the first 4 space shuttle launches, or no, maybe first 2 space shuttle launches had a white external fuel tank. I think the first 4 had ejection seats. That's what was unique. First couple, I'll say first few space shuttle launches had a white external fuel tank, and it was basically like over 100 kilograms worth of paint, or 400 pounds, I think was the number, worth of paint, which basically is a direct payload capacity issue. Like, you're literally decreasing your payload just to paint it white. There can be some thermal considerations, but at the end of the day, it was pretty well moot to be able to paint it white. Starship is kind of similar, I think, in that manner, where it's like there's probably some thermal considerations for painting and things like that. You know, I know the white paint on Falcon 9, a lot of that is actually for thermal considerations for re-entry. And also, you'll notice that like some missions have a little bit of gray paint if they're doing like a geostationary orbit, directed geo orbit or something where there's a long coast phase and they don't want the RP1 to freeze up. There's certain considerations there, but I think that, yeah, the reality is, paint's mostly thermal, and unless it's Delta 2, then you paint that thing teal just because you can. Yeah, that's the story there. I don't know what else. Yeah, it was the first 2 had white tanks. Thank you for confirming in Discord. I appreciate you guys. Let's see here. But real quick, back to the odds of success. I think I got distracted by weather. Odds of success, I'm full success. I'm really hoping if this thing takes off today. I mean, I'm fairly high. I've been pretty confident the last couple launches though too. Ever since Flight 7 had a boom, then 8 had almost the same boom. I was like, oh, they're gonna nail it on 9, and it felt like they did it first. But I'm gonna be. That's why I said online, like, I'm gonna be glued to stage 2. Obviously, I meant my eyeballs will be glued to the views of stage 2, not me myself. And that's because once it's in its coast phase, just maintaining stable attitude control would be awesome. But let's see. This is from Alexander saying, I dragged my wife down to Boca Chica 2 years ago. It was impressive then. Just amazing to see the progress made. Yeah, it is actually incredible how much has changed, not only in the area, not only at Starbase, but even when you're at South Padre or Port Isabel or Brownsville, some of the local community. Every time I come down here, there's substantial changes, and it's fun. It's fun to see a community kind of bootstrapping and getting more people coming through. A lot of people coming back to the island here at South Padre, where it's pretty fun because I think South Padre used to really be a big destination for spring break and things like that. And as that kind of faded, it's sort of like, well, now what, and now there is something again, and there's some excitement and new things happening. Let me see if I can push that again. Okay, still don't quite have comments working. Asking, can I show the... Oh, there we go. Comments are back. Yay! Things are improving. Nature's healing. Kind of. A little. Let's see here. Hello from Iceland. Or wait, what was that one that I don't even remember what I put up there. Show us the SpaceX flight page. So, yeah, I had that pulled up earlier. I don't know what exactly you want to see from it that we haven't talked about, but I can refresh. By the way, they are coming up on... Wait, where are we at here? They should be within... up there. I mean, yeah, that big old cloud of loading methane into the ship. That has begun at T-minus 53 minutes. So that should be about a minute into ship loading. And, LOX will be next at T-minus 45 minutes. Woo! All right. So remember, they didn't make it super far into prop load yesterday, so we'll kind of keep an eye on that here today to see if we actually get an improvement or not. Let's see. This is from Chris J. Hart. How much is riding on this launch? If it fails, could it have serious consequences for the rest of the program? Do you think they will just keep going? Honestly, I'm not kidding you. I know people would say like, no, this is stupid and a waste of money. If this thing happened to blow up on the pad today, I think we'd still see a launch in 6 months. I think it'd be a very small speed, a substantial but small speed bump in the grand scheme of things. It just really is different than other rocket programs. There's cash flow. They have money. They're a valuable company with money being generated. There's revenue coming in from Starlink. Starlink is printing them money. That's first and foremost. The second part is they have Starbase. Starbase can crank these things out. I say that a lot. They can build rockets faster and at a scale that we just haven't seen before, really, especially at this size. I mean, imagine if the space shuttle had a line, and not only if the space shuttle had a production line and we had these things, you know, space shuttles flowing out every month, but imagine if every time they built one, I mean, this actually did happen. They made iterations between them, and they actually made fixes and changes. But as, you know, minor tweaks. Now imagine if they had continued that and ramped up production to be able to make one a month, and all of a sudden you have a fleet of 100 space shuttles, and the 100th one is so much more advanced than the first one that it's laughably different. You're going, man, I'm glad we kept producing these things, because holy cow, did we get way better at making them. Holy cow, did we make some discoveries that made for a way better launch vehicle in the long run. That's what we're seeing. That's exactly what we're seeing here, is the ability, the freedom to do that. And it's not just, I know, I'm sorry if I'm resounding this, because people seem to think like the iterative approach and all that stuff is just kind of hype and it's all drinking Kool-Aid to believe that it will work. It will. If this was like, if they had a fixed budget and they go, oh no, we only have $2 billion to do this. Yeah, I probably wouldn't quite go this approach. There's probably cheaper ways to do this. But as far as making a great rocket and solving problems that have never been solved before, testing is the best way to do it. And if you don't care that you lose a few along the way, I think that's the best approach. I mean, the Soviets did something similar with the N1. If the N1, if Korolev hadn't died and the N1 got a chance to continue building and flying, the N1 would have been an amazing rocket, a very capable rocket. Unfortunately, it never got to see that because of the death of Sergei Korolev, or Korolev, however you want to say it. Again, the people that I know say Korolev, and people may fun of saying. Yeah, if he hadn't died, and if the programs, you know, if the money didn't stop flowing to that program, they absolutely could have made the N1 work. Of course, like, it was not a flawed design. It's just big and ambitious, and they had to do things really weird because they didn't even have a way to test fire the engines because they had pyrotechnic valves on those old NK-15s. The NK-33s would have been so much better already. Yeah, primitive flight control units. I mean, everything about it was like, they just had to fly it. They just had to fly it to test it. And it was even more crazy than flying and testing this. And this has flown much more successfully than the N1. But you can think of it a little bit like that. I did a video about that a long time ago of like, Starship versus the N1. Is Starship doomed to repeat history? It's already succeeded better than the N1 ever did. And it's continuing to evolve. And again, so far, it kind of feels like some of those things are backwards evolutions, but they're still learning new things and better ways to do every piece of it. So let's see here. Someone said Tim sounds like he's on ketamine. No, I don't take any drugs. I like to drink water. And I like to go for walks. Walking and music is my drug. Let's see. Side note, I wonder how you'd even get a job at Area 51 as a welder. That is actually a really good question. How would you get a job at Area 51 as a welder? How do you get in the door there? Let's see, from Horn, could they launch a Block 3 ship on a V2 booster? Seems like a shame to ditch them in the Gulf. No, they're probably likely uncompatible. Don't forget the Booster 3 will have the new hot staging ring, stage adapter that has basically the trellis frame, kind of more akin to exactly what what the Soviets did with the hot staging looking trellis frame. That'll be really cool. I think that'll be. I just don't think they're compatible. Just like how the engines are not compatible with, like, Raptor 3s are not compatible on a version 2 ship, and vice versa. So I think it's a similar, like, you can't put Raptor 2s, leftover Raptor 2s inside of a version 3 Starship. So I think that's the same with mix matching the new ships and boosters. Would be my guess. I don't actually know for sure, but yeah. Sorry, booster. I think I said Booster 3 and Block 3. I did mean Block 3. By the way, we are getting close to SpaceX's stream being live, which we will bring on air when that is live. And we're going to be listening in a lot because I feel like there's going to be quite a bit of stuff coming from this stream that we can hopefully gather. Yes, Joseph, correct. There is exactly, they will not be landing the booster back at the launch site. They will be splashing down the booster. Oh, by the way, we can also see the chines are being filled, which means they are loading it with fire suppression, and the COPVs inside there are being filled, so they're still continuing to load. That is exciting. I think we're getting further along into the count. Or what did it get to yesterday? Was it 40 minutes? Yeah, they held at 40, so we're still chugging along. Okay, cool. So we will be pulling up the SpaceX feed here once it actually goes live with video. So, but they probably won't bring that live until T-minus 30 minutes. That's typically what they do. They probably just have a loading screen going. Dang, this is from Greg Poyo Goyo with a super chat, with a little emote or whatever. So thank you so much, Greg. I did see that, and I very much appreciate it. Michael L. with a $100 super chat that just says, hey. Holy crap, Michael, thank you so much. That is absolutely wild. Greatly appreciate that. Sorry I can't get the comments to go on screen right now. But yeah, that is, I see you, and I greatly appreciate that. Everyone say thank you to Michael L. That is awesome. Let's see here. What else we got here? This is from Jeff Wersing asking, is the pointy end up? I am no expert. Well, luckily, I am actually an expert. And this shot, we saw the flamey end. There we go. Flamey end is down at the bottom. Pointy end slightly obscured there by the chopsticks. I don't know if we do have another shot that shows the pointy end a little bit better. You know, as a rocket orientation specialist, I do have to kind of take everything into consideration. There's the pointy end. So the pointy end is up. So I can confirm that we have a pointy end, flamey end down, and pointy end up. Pointy end up, flamey end down. It is looking good as far as that goes. Luckily, you know, you hire the best, you get the best. Okay, cool. We will be bringing all this on. By the way, I should remind everyone that if you see what looks like smoke, that's just condensation. The propellants being loaded into the vehicle are cryogenic. They're very, very, very cold. If you went up and touched the rocket on the propellant tanks right now, you would very much, your hand would freeze to it. So what looks like smoke, the reason you can tell it's pretty dense because it's pouring down. It's not rising. You know, smoke rises because of the heat. It makes it less dense, and the ambient air temperature rises. This is so cold that it's falling down, and you will see that happen as well. So that's a good sign that that's not smoke, that it's condensation, and it's very, very cold. It's boiling off cryogenic propellant, and as it boils off, that's exactly what you're seeing. You're seeing it come in contact with the humidity in the air. Yep, you can see it right there coming out of the inner stage. That's normal. That's part of the chill down process and part of the prop loading process. Let's see here. Tate asks, do I make any 1-to-1 scale models? Hey, look. Oh, does SpaceX actually have audio? All right. Let's listen in.
Just off to my right there, our new mission control center. Engineers are on console monitoring all the vehicle, the systems, as we are counting down right now to liftoff of the 10th Starship flight test. As you look at the rocket, you can tell prop load is underway. Our T0 right now is set for 6:59 p.m. Central Time. We've been dodging around some weather. That is currently the biggest threat to a launch today, as we're at about 70% probability of violation to liftoff. So we're looking at those clouds closely, but not tracking any technical issues on the vehicle. Today's objectives, particularly with the ship, going to look pretty similar to the last flights. The last several launches, we're planning to deploy Starlink simulator satellites and fly a whole range of experiments during Starship's re-entry, really trying to test the limits of its heat shield, the flaps, learn as much as possible as we build towards a fully reusable heat shield. We're looking to do a controlled descent, targeted soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean, so hopefully seeing Starship on the other side of the planet today. Regardless of the outcome, the goal is to collect as much data as humanly possible. That'll get us all the bit. We're just getting closer and closer to a fully operational Starship.
So that's good. So weather is looking decent-ish. I'm liking the way that's going. It sounds like Dan might have a little bit of a cold or something. His voice sounds extra raspy today.
Just gonna enter this live cast.
All right,
so add a little flavor.
Yeah, right now we're counting down.
That's Elon.
But we're about to launch the largest flying object ever made. But this isn't on the radar for everybody, and we know that. So we want to kind of take a beat, pull back, do a little bit of Starship 101. To do that, I've got some special guests crashing the webcast today. Joining me now in Star Factory, Elon Musk, Chief Engineer at SpaceX.
Oh, this is going to be the
Bill Riley,
technical update,
our VP
hopefully.
of Starship Engineering. Thanks for being here, guys. I know we got a rocket about to get off the pad, but, you know, let's start people off, like, high level. Like, why are we here? What the hell are we doing here?
Well, I don't know about everybody, but I'm here to try to build into the future that I imagined and dreamed of as a child, where starships with people are out among the stars exploring the universe.
Yeah. So the why. It's always important to explain the why of things, and the why of Starship is that we want to be a multi-planet species to extend consciousness beyond Earth. I think for two main reasons. One is to ensure the long-term survival and prosperity of life as we know it in consciousness, which if we are a multi-planet species and ultimately a multi-stellar species out there among the stars, the probability of survival is much, much longer. That's kind of the, defensive aspect or life.
Uh-oh. That seems to be on par for us today, of course. I don't know if that's
Insurance for life collectively. But then there also need to be things that are inspiring and exciting and that give you reason to live. Life cannot just be about solving one tragic problem after another. There must be also reasons to get up in the morning and be excited about the future. And a future where we are a spacefaring civilization is infinitely more exciting than one where we are not.
And we're doing it all pretty unique location. I mean, the pad's behind us. We got rocket on the tower. We got another tower with it. We're sitting inside Star Factory. And I mean, it wasn't like this for very long. This is all pretty brand new.
Yeah, I think we moved Starship here in about the early part of 2019. So we've been coming that entire time and seeing the site evolve from a double wide trailer and a tent where we built Starhopper to the first suborbital test flights. And now we have behind us 2 towers for the first time as we build towards the first operational flight from the second tower at the end of this year. And this beautiful building, 1 million square feet, where we're able to work towards a production line of Starships.
Yeah, the SpaceX team has done an incredible job of building out really the most advanced rocket manufacturing facility that has ever existed. This is far beyond any rocket fabrication facility that has ever been built. This is essentially alien-level technology, and it was all built here basically down by the Rio Grande River and close to the beach. It's an incredibly improbable location, and this used to be a sandbar. I think we're about, 3 feet or about 1 meter above sea level. It really was nothing. If you see the time lapse from sandbar to two launch towers and a gigantic rocket factory with high bays, and we're going to be building something called the Gigabay, which is like one of the largest enclosed volumes on Earth. So it's sort of like a gigantic Borg cube that we're going to be building here for building and storing these gigantic rockets. It's really spectacular, and anyone can come and visit. So because we're on a public highway and we're literally by a public beach, you can actually come and see the rocket. You quite close up. I mean, you can drive past it, and you can also look at the factory. And anyone could do this from anywhere in the world. So if you can come and visit and check it out. So I think it's pretty cool that it's
Just not right now.
just not right now.
Just not right
Obviously
now.
not when we're launching because there's some safety issues, but the rocket's often just sitting on the pad without any propellant in it, and then you can just come here and visit. It's very easy.
Yeah, I think it's a really special place. Yesterday, the ship went down the road behind us, and I saw families outside going for on Sunday going for their Sunday stroll, and they were greeted by Starship going down. And I think that from the very beginning, the thing about Starship, different than Falcon and other rockets that I'm aware of, is we designed it to be mass-produced and mass-produced at scale. And it's not about building one Starship and getting to orbit once. It's about doing it in a sustained and rapid way.
Yeah, we're aiming for ultimately thousands of ships to be built per year, which is what's needed in order to construct a city on Mars that is self-sustaining. And the major fork in the road of destiny will be when the Mars city is capable of surviving, even if the resupply ships from Earth stop coming for any reason. And that reason could be something cataclysmic, or it could be that that civilization simply subsided. There's always this debate throughout history of will civilization end with a bang or a whimper. But either way, if the critical thing is to get to the point where Mars is self-sustaining and can survive even if the resupply ships stop coming for any reason, which means that you need to build an entire base of industry on Mars in order for Mars to survive. For example, it's not simply enough to build a chip, like a computer chip factory, but you need the ability to build computer chip factories. So this is going to really take a lot of tonnage. I mean, my guess is at least 1 million tons to the surface of Mars, and maybe it takes less than that, but it's going to be a lot. But this is a very exciting future. It's one which will ensure the long-term survival and prosperity of life and consciousness, and it's the critical stepping stone to get from this solar system to other star systems, and perhaps go out there and explore, and perhaps we'll encounter alien civilizations that maybe they're alive now, or maybe they enjoyed a period of prosperity for millions of years, but also died out millions of years ago. So it's humbling to think of the age of the universe, according to the standard model of physics, being approximately 13.8 billion years old.
Thank you, Lex Friedman.
So,
love you.
An incremental million years would be 3 digits past the decimal point. And if you look at, say, our civilization and measure our civilization by the first evidence of writing, which is about 5,500 years ago, civilization as measured from the first writing is only 1/1,000,000th of Earth's existence.
Or blip.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flash in the pan so far.
Well, we're getting some cool shots. Rocket out on the pad right now. We tell people, like, come down, see it. It's hard to get, like, a sense of scale of just how massive this thing is. And we were able to catch somebody working on it a little while ago. And, like, part of the reason you said we're sending millions of tons, that's kind of why this thing
I
is
think
so
in this
massive as
image,
it
Dan,
is.
you can actually see the person working at the bottom of the ship, and as we zoom out, you see the full ship, that sort of two-tone silver and black, and then the booster below it, right? And it really sets the scale, which doesn't come across, I think, other than in person. And when I do tours, I like to say Starship is real, Starship is big, and Starship is really big. And I think you can see there, and with the factory shots you saw earlier, again, we've got Flight 10 on the pad, but we got many more behind it.
Yeah, so I posted a video yesterday of just a brief scan of part of the Starship factory, and you can get a sense of the scale of the factory. Yeah, I guess we could talk a bit about why Starship is the way it is. Like, for example, why is half of the ship black and half of it is silver colored? And that's because the bottom half of the ship, the bottom as seen from orbital entry, has a heat shield on it. So the black there is the heat shield, and then the core structure of the rocket is a special alloy of stainless steel, and that's where you see the sort of shiny silver parts are stainless steel. The reason for steel over aluminum is that the heat of atmospheric entry and the heat of the rocket engines is enough to easily melt aluminum, but steel is much more resilient against both ascent heating, but especially the reentry heating. And you don't have to paint it, which is actually very difficult to paint a large object that is going through cryogenic cycles and have the paint stay on. It's quite challenging.
We were just talking about that a little bit ago.
So we've talked about it. It's massive. It obviously takes a whole lot of energy to make that thing move. And that's where Raptor really starts to come in. Most advanced engine on the planet. Giant
yes.
lightsaber.
No, that's a lightsaber and a half. You would get vaporized in an instant if you were standing in front of Raptor. So, yeah, burnt to a crisp in less than a second. So in order to create a fully reusable orbital rocket, you have to advance the state of the art in every part of the rocket. That means the engines have to be better than any engine ever. The structure's got to be better than any structure ever. You've got to you've got to have a means of bringing the rocket back to the launch pad. You've got to have a fully reusable orbital heat shield, and that no one has ever made a fully reusable orbital heat shield. The space shuttle, for example, required 9 months of refurbishment between flights. So the space shuttle heat shield would come back essentially partially broken, and would
Oh, well, I don't know what happened there. Again, don't know if that's an us thing or... I guess I'll take a real quick second then to say, again, I put it on air a second ago, but Lex Friedman, thank you so much for your generous donation. Much love. I really, really, really appreciate that. Let's see here. So we're hearing, and I hope that it can get corrected here. I feel like we're like getting... cyber attacked or something. This is absolutely crazy that all of our backups on backups on backups and everything are not working like they normally do. Yeah, you notice that he was even talking about how the heat shield tiles, he talks about that a lot. When I talked to him last, it was all about heat shield tiles. It's been an ongoing topic. Is like, are these heat shield tiles valid? Is this really the best way? We've talked about on air here, active cooling. We talked about things like the ablative material behind the heat shield tiles. We've talked about all these different things, and the reality is no one has actually built a properly reusable rocket before that's rapidly reusable. So we don't know what is the best. You can assume you might have an idea, but let's say, again, the idea of being able to iterate on something. If they went all in and said, we know these heat shields are great, the space shuttle, use these heat shields, we're going to use something similar, we're going to tweak them a little bit, but they're going to be great, and we're going to rely on this to work. And they start flying. They fly 5 times. And, okay, let's see if we can get this back on now. It looks like it's coming back to us. Sorry that we might have lost a little bit of...
Very unwieldy when you've got a gigantic thing. Then it would be picked up by these tower arms and placed in the launch mount. That would delay the reusability dramatically and would add a lot of mass with the landing legs. So that's why we catch the rocket with the tower arms, because it's the same tower arms that put the rocket in the launch mount are used to catch the rocket. And that means that we can put the booster back in the launch mount in less than an hour after liftoff. In fact, the booster is going to come back very fast. Like, 5 or 6 minutes later, this booster is coming back one way or another, or not coming back. So then you really have propellant full time, which can be brought down to about 30, 40 minutes. And that means it is theoretically possible to fly the booster again in less than an hour.
I think when I think about it, it's the jet drives up to the jetway, the people get off, new people get on, and it leaves. You don't want to land the jet on a different airfield and then tow it over to the jetway. So it's just operationally simpler and faster.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success with the booster, 3 for 3 on the catch attempts. When we bring it back, we've reflown one, so awesome. And then again, Starship superpowers, the whole thing is reusable. So ship reusability is like what we're working on right now. We've been able to get some really spectacular re-entries on a couple of flights, hoping to get this one for re-entry on the V2 ship. But yeah, that fully reusable heat shield, that thing that has just never been done before. That's one of the things we're really looking for that data on.
Yeah, I mean, there are thousands of engineering challenges that remain for both the ship and the booster, but the single, maybe the single biggest one is the reusable orbital heat shield. We are confident in making a fully reusable orbital heat shield, but it will require many flights, many iterations to figure out where the weak points are in the heat shield, where we need to change the design, either strengthening the tile or changing how big the gap is between tiles, changing what's underneath the tile. There's a 100 different variables that we could tweak with the ship tiles, the heat shield tiles. But the only way to know exactly what we should be adjusting is to fly repeatedly and be able to examine the ship upon landing. And we have successfully brought the ship back through the atmosphere and achieved a soft landing multiple times. So we know that this is possible, but we have in the process shed many heat shield tiles. So we need to be able to do this without shedding heat shield tiles and do so repeatedly.
And I think what you're seeing now is the Starship. This is CG of it coming in and landing on the tower, much like the booster, but there's some additional challenges there where we need to make sure we don't scrape the tiles off as we slide along the chopstick
We can't
arms.
shuck the heat shield.
Don't crush the ship.
Rapid reusability.
If we shuck the tiles, then that's obviously going to fail the reusability test.
So ships can use the tower to land and catch, like the booster here on Earth where towers are available. And for our initial landings on Mars and other planets, we'll need landing legs that deploy much like what you're seeing here with Ship 15 when we did our suborbital test to prove out the precision descent landing, which was a successful test. We actually landed to, one was we were able to actually recover it, and you can see it here in the Rocket Garden if you visit Starbase.
Yeah, so the Rocket Garden that Bill mentioned, we have actually a whole bunch of boosters and ships, and we'll be adding to them over time. So you can see an evolution of Starship just by driving down the highway.
Yeah, so reusability is key. There's some other technologies we're still looking to prove out. Really big one is going to be the on-orbit refilling. Looking to do that next year, and that's really what's going to kind of unlock, Starship going everywhere else, going everywhere beyond Earth. And that's something that's, again, never been done before, kind of like that reusable orbital heat shield, but it's going to be something that's kind of some of the other secret sauce to Starship, where we're going to be able to send hundreds of tons per ship to Mars.
Yeah, I like to think of it as if we get to orbit with a full cargo bay, but we're empty on fuel and oxygen. So basically, we're running on fumes. Then we send other ships to dock, transfer propellant, and now we made our two-stage rocket look like a many multi-stage rocket. And we get all of that performance. And we can take that full cargo bay now wherever we want to go.
Yeah, so a crucial technology that we hope to demonstrate next year is this orbital refilling. Much like aerial refueling, it's essential for being able to send significant payload to Mars. So you essentially send a ship to orbit with a few hundred tons of payload, sort of a filled payload bay. But once it gets to orbit, the tanks will be mostly empty, and then you send up additional tanker ships to refill the Mars ship's tanks, so that it can thrust from Earth orbit to Mars and have enough propellant left for landing. So this is orbital refilling is also not something that's ever been demonstrated before. So that would be a technology. We obviously have at SpaceX figured out how to dock repeatedly with the space station. So in a lot of ways, this is like docking, and in some ways it's easier in that SpaceX is docking with its own craft, but no one has ever demonstrated propellant transfer in orbit, to the best of our knowledge, and so this would be propellant transfer at a very large scale. And but with full reusability and propellant transfer, those are the key technologies needed for building a city on Mars. And I'm confident that the SpaceX team, which is incredibly talented, will achieve these goals, and we will be landing ships on Mars in the future and building life on Mars. building greenhouses and life on Mars, and ensuring the long-term survival of life as we know it. And it's important to note here that obviously, we are effectively stewards of life here on Earth. That the other creatures cannot build spacecraft and get to other planets. So if there were to be a cataclysmic event, like a giant meteor that destroyed the dinosaurs, or ultimately the sun will expand to envelop Earth and destroy all life, we know this is an undisputed fact. Then if we don't take life to another planet, all life will be destroyed. So it's incumbent upon us to ensure that we do bring life to other planets and ensure the long-term survival of life as we know it on planet Earth.
And I mean, aside from that, there's so much that Starship unlocks by being able to do these things. Like, we'll be able to go to Mars, but there are other just transformational things by being able to take that many people, that much stuff to space for that much less money.
Yeah, I mean, I think like understanding our planet better, being able to move people around the planet, make it feel smaller and more accessible. You could go anywhere on the Earth, in less than 40 minutes, basically, in terms of flight time. So I really do see Starship as being this thing that can connect us, just like Starlink connects our information. This can connect us more physically.
Yeah. So there's really nothing faster than a rocket. Really, an orbital rocket is the fastest thing that we know of of the fastest means of transport. So, like, you could go from LA to Sydney in less than half an hour. You could go LA to Tokyo in less than half an hour. You could go from New York to Singapore in half an hour. Everything's probably half an hour, basically. But some things might be 10 minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, yeah, sign me up for that, please. All right, cool.
Cross the Atlantic in 10 minutes, no problem.
Please, yes, sign me up.
You're going 25 times the speed of sound, so that's 30 times faster than a commercial aircraft.
And it's a whole hell of a lot better view.
Yeah, it's a hell of a view.
Yeah. All right, cool. Anything else, guys? Anything else you're really excited about
we could
coming
say
out?
a lot more. I
Yeah.
Maybe we should go check in on the rocket
Yeah.
and get
All
on
right,
console.
we're going to go back on console to hopefully the weather supports a launch tonight. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and yeah, thanks for your support.
Thanks for crashing,
bye.
guys.
All right.
Well, that was pretty cool. I mean, I feel like we've kind of been...
All right, that was sweet. Let's turn our attention back to the rocket. So just checking in, we are about 19 minutes and change away from liftoff. As I said right at the top, weather is going to be our primary concern. We were tracking some anvil clouds. We're hopefully clearing that on the range soon. We are not currently tracking any hardware blockers to launch, but we'll continue to follow along. If anyone was following along yesterday, we actually didn't even get into our webcast as we had a leak on one of the hoses feeding the liquid oxygen into the ship through its quick disconnect. We were able to replace that this morning. Team did an incredible job, got us into an attempt today. All right, joining me now for the rest of the day is Amanda Lee. Hi, Amanda.
Thanks, Dan. I'm super excited to be here. Let's just get right into it.
Yeah, a whole bunch has happened to get us to today's flight, our 10th flight test. Let's look back at Starship's 9th flight test in May. That did end with a rapid unscheduled disassembly on the ship and the booster.
Flight 9 marked the first reflight of a super heavy booster. We saw a successful stage separation and the first ever deterministic flip, which gives us extra performance. The reused booster was flown at a much higher angle of attack to push the envelope on capabilities, which ended up causing some internal structural failure, eventually leading to a rapid unscheduled disassembly at landing burn.
Yeah, ship continued its ascent. We did see pressure drop in its main fuel tank and rise in the nose cone. We just had a camera view. We actually caught the failure on camera in the fuel pressurization system. Ship was able to complete its ascent, though, achieved its planned velocity and second stage engine cutoff.
After that, though, we did run into some issues with attitude control, which led us to skipping the payload deploy and Raptor relay demos. Starship eventually re-entered the atmosphere in an off-nominal attitude, and communication was lost approximately 46 minutes into the flight test during entry, but of course not before one heck of a light show.
Yeah. That booster rud was caused by higher than predicted forces on its structure, specifically that internal fuel transport tube, as we were doing a higher angle of attack experiment. To fix that for remaining flights with this version of the booster, including the one behind us, we're just going to lower that angle of attack. We're relaxing those forces, and that minimizes the likelihood of structural failure.
And over on the ship side, we redesigned the part of the fuel pressurization system that failed on Flight 9, put it through a more rigorous test campaign, and after subjecting it to flight-like stresses, it did successfully run for more than 10 times the expected service life with no damage, so great test results there. Our goal is always to make it through all of the objectives we set, but any result that teaches us more about Starship performing in the real-world environment helps us to make those targeted iterations and improve quickly.
Yeah, that's how SpaceX developed our first rocket, Falcon 1. That's the same philosophy we used to develop Falcon 9, which has passed 100 flights just this year and 500 flights overall.
Yeah,
Crazy.
incredible milestone for Falcon, and again, the way they got there was to launch, learn, and repeat.
All right, so that wasn't the only thing that happened while getting ready for Flight 10. If you followed along, Ship 36, which was originally supposed to fly on Flight 10, experienced a major anomaly during a static fire test at our Massey's test site. It was in the process of loading all of its cryogenic propellant to do a 6-engine static fire when we had a sudden energetic event that resulted in the complete loss of the Starship, and we damaged the immediate area surrounding the stand out there at Massey's.
The most likely root cause was identified as undetectable or under-screen damage to a composite overwrapped pressure vessel, or COPV, in Starship's payload bay section. To address this probable cause, we're operating the COPVs on ship at a lower pressure and also implemented additional proofs and inspection methods.
Meanwhile, though, keep our launch schedule up, got to keep testing. The team was able to pivot and use the launch pad, the one we're on today, to do ship static fire tests. It was the first time we've ever done that. Doing that retrofit was the fastest path to get back to launch. Team was able to engineer a solution where we used a transport ring to mount the ship, routed a whole bunch of extra hoses and everything to load propellants. They knocked that out in just a matter of weeks, where we had 2 static fires on the orbital mount.
Yeah, very impressive turnaround there, getting to these static fires. These static fires gave us the data we needed to progress to launch and are a prime example of our engineer and technician teams working to build creative solutions to keep us charging forward to eventually bring Starship online.
And even while doing all of this, we're in the process of rebuilding the test stand out at Massey's to get ready for the next generation of Starship, version 3. So right now, though, we are still on track. We're looking about 14 minutes away. Again, our T0 is at 6:59 p.m. Central. While we still have a couple of moments, though, let's toss it over to Chris, who's getting ready to watch the launch out in California. How's it going, Chris?
That's crazy.
Hey, Dan and Amanda, it's going great. And welcome everyone to the Tesla Diner here in Hollywood, California. For the first ever public showing of a SpaceX webcast, it's been great to see the webcast up here on the big screens at the diner. You know, throughout the afternoon, we've had members of the public coming up, mixing and mingling, enjoying some of the food, getting to watch some old science fiction, but also getting to watch and keep up to date with what's happening here for Starship's 10th test flight. I think I can speak for everyone here when I say we're really looking forward to the epic views that we're going to get from in space and during atmospheric reentry, all thanks to Starlink. And speaking of Starlink, that's actually how we're coming to you live from the diner, relying on one of those many reliable connections that Starlink is able to put down across the Earth and in low Earth orbit. So for a little bit more information on the immediate future of the Starlink constellation, let's head on over to Hawthorne, where my colleague Tyler Lionquist is standing by. Tyler, how's it going there? And are you ready to see a rocket launch today?
We are definitely ready for a Starship launch here in Hawthorne. Hi everyone, my name is Tyler Lionquist and I'm a Starlink business analyst here at SpaceX. Starlink is SpaceX's low Earth orbit high-speed internet that's bringing connectivity to places where you least expect it, including in space. For today's mission, Starship is outfitted with 4 Starlink terminals, allowing us to get live views of ship while in orbit and all the way down to splashdown in the Indian Ocean. Starlink satellites are built in Redmond, Washington, and that's also where we monitor the health of our entire constellation. So let's take a quick look for more on Redmond.
Been a lot of little behind the scenes.
What a lot of people might not realize when they think about the scale that we're operating is
we actually should maybe mute this in case it has copyright music. Actually, sadly, I'm sure they'll post this video separately somewhere if you want to watch, and we'll get good visuals here of the Starlink factory, which is pretty crazy. I mean, it is. I was saying earlier, they're basically printing money right now with Starlink, since it's a revenue-generating thing, which is something that no other rocket company, I think, has ever successfully done, just like being able to have their own revenue stream. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm about to head outside here pretty soon, probably about T-minus 10 or 50 or 5 minutes or so, and get ready to watch outside. So there will be a little transition here for me, but I just wanted to take this moment again to thank all of you for watching with us. There was one person in particular, John Shahidi. Thank you for the stream. $200 super chat. Thank you so much, John. That sincerely means the absolute world. And to all of you that are watching and helping and supporting and hanging out with us, even despite some of our classic gremlins that are rearing their heads today. And thanks to the team for continuing to press on and make these things work. It's crazy. We've put so much work into this stuff, and of course, no matter how hard you think you perfect something, there's always something that's gonna crop up. So for all of you watching, thank you. I really hope we do see a launch today. I'm feeling pretty good about it. So again, the big thing that I'm going to be looking forward to is once we get to second stage burn, and once SECO, so second stage engine cutoff, once it's in its coast phase, all eyes are going to be on that second stage to see if it's actually going to be successful. So I'm, hoping, fingers crossed today, that we do see this happen. We're really far into the countdown now, so I think they've probably used up enough of propellant that if they were to have to scrub today for any reason, it would likely be not a one-day reset. So really hoping that it does indeed launch today. So hope that everyone's ready for this. And again, as soon as we are clear of the copyright music, we'll bring this back on screen for you guys. Just don't want to get copyright strikes. So thank you all for watching. We'll do the best to bring you guys as many views as we can during launch, and hopefully we get a clean shot today. Hopefully the clouds do not avoid anything. So let's see here. All right, let's listen in here.
Today's objectives is for SHIP to deploy Starlink simulator satellites that represent the advanced V3 satellites Starship will be launching in the future. And as you can see here, once Starship reaches a nominal orbit, the payload door will slowly begin to open to prepare for deployment. The Starlink satellites will be dispatched relatively quickly, one at a time, very much like a Pez dispenser. They'll be situated in one long stack, taking up as little space as possible, allowing for an efficient deployment sequence. And once a set of Starlinks is deployed, the next set advances and deploys until they are all drifting away from Starship to prepare for their on-orbit life. Each Starlink V3 launch on Starship is planned to add 60 terabits per second of capacity to the Starlink network.
Wow.
That's more than 20 times the capacity added with every V2 mini launch on Falcon 9. So we're talking about a massive increase in performance all around, which will ultimately enable Starlink to serve as the communications backbone of the missions to the Moon and to Mars. But for now, we're going to turn it back over to the team at Starbase. Hey, Dan and Amanda.
Hey, thanks, Taylor. So, quick update for everybody. So weather's still the main thing that we're watching. We are currently red on the range, hoping to clear that anvil rule any moment now. That's really the only thing blocking us at the moment. Vehicle's good, pads ready to go. All of our checkouts have been really smooth today after that repair work that we did this morning after we had to abort out yesterday. So we're looking at the weather. That's the thing we're really paying attention to right now.
Meanwhile, prop load is still ongoing. We started loading prop at about T-minus 53 minutes, beginning with ship fuel, ship blocks, booster fuel, and finally booster locks began loading at about T-minus 35. We'll continue loading prop until just about 3 minutes before liftoff, and ship will conclude first, and then 30 seconds later, booster will finish up.
Yeah, so bottom line, we're looking great in the vehicle. We're looking really good on the range. We're just really watching that weather. So we're still waiting to hear that that's clear. That's the only thing that could potentially stop us today.
Okay, now let's talk about Mars, since everything we do is part of our foundational mission to get to the red planet. Each Starship launch is to learn more and more about what's needed to make life multiplanetary and to improve ship to the point where it's eventually taking millions of people to Mars.
That's right. We're looking ahead to begin sending the first Starships to Mars next year. These initial ones are going to go without humans. They're just going to put minimally viable landers on the surface, land right on the skirt, no legs. This will just help prove we can actually get to Mars, focus on learning just as much as humanly possible, demonstrating what's needed for Mars transit and the ultimate landing.
Then, during our next window from 2028 to 2029, we'll attempt to land the initial infrastructure and start delivering more equipment while evaluating available resources on the planet. And we'll also have Optimus on board for the ride, designed to do the initial heavy lifting.
Beyond that, by 2030, 2031, as these windows open up roughly every 26 months, we'll continue to increase the amount of payload we're sending on each ship as we're building out more infrastructure, mining resources, generating propellant for ships to come back from Mars. By 2033, we want to double the amount of payload per ship as we just get closer and closer to building a self-sustaining presence on the red planet.
Yeah, very exciting missions ahead, and these first missions to Mars are going to be crucial to setting up what we'll need for humans to eventually inhabit the planet, and we won't be doing this alone.
Right.
The Italian Space Agency and SpaceX recently signed a first-of-its-kind agreement to carry Italian experiments on the first Starship missions to deliver customer payloads to Mars. These payloads will include a plant growth experiment, a weather monitoring station, and a radiation sensor to gather scientific data during Starship's approximately 6-month interplanetary coast phase from Earth to Mars and also on the Martian surface.
It's a really exciting vision. To make it happen, we're going to need to launch a whole lot more. We're going to need a whole lot of people that are going to come and help us build this. So it makes it really fun for me to come to work. I know you build these things.
100%.
It's got to be fun for you.
Yep, very exciting.
All right.
Looks like we're about 5 minutes from Starship's 10th flight test. Range is still looking good. Still have an eye on the weather at the moment. And prop load is also continuing on both stages of Starship.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up real quick. So we are we're almost closed out on the booster. We're about 90% on fuel, about 90% on LOX, just a bit below. So again, we're going to continue filling for about the next 2 minutes. Once we're completely done with that,
I'm going outside.
11 million pounds.
Time to see this thing fly.
Propellant on board those 2 stages of Starship. So a lot of propellant to move really big rockets really fast away from South Texas. So once we get close, all of our ground systems will prepare themselves. They do what's called pushbacks. They'll clear out all of those feed lines, push back into the prop farm, and just prepare the area around it. We're doing our final guidance and navigation checks right now. The automated flight safety system is about to get armed. We're just really preparing the vehicle to get ready to go. I'm not sure if we passed it already, but we do a final thrust vector control check out. The TVC will wiggle the engines that we use to actually steer the rocket itself. Everybody's favorite topic, if we need to hold. That hold would come at T-minus 40 seconds. We can hold if we're still waiting for the weather to clear, which is our big item today, or if any other last-minute issues pop up. We'll only hold there if we have an issue. Still waiting to hear confirmation that the weather has cleared. That's the only thing it looks like would hold us today. There's the business end of a Super Heavy.
Now, once we pass that T-minus 40 second mark that Dan was talking about, a number of events are going to occur in rapid succession. The ground spin and ignition systems come up to flight pressure, and ship will switch over to internal power. After that, the quick disconnect arm lockout is removed in preparation for retraction, which occurs shortly after T0. And once we pass that T-minus 40 second mark, we do still have the ability to then recycle the count under certain conditions back to T-minus 40 seconds and hold there to assess what happened, and if we can proceed again back to liftoff.
Yeah, we hope that doesn't happen, but it has previously. I promise not to psych anybody this time. We do have some kind of points of no return. Once the water starts flowing out of that flame deflector under the launch mount, that happens just a little after T-minus 10 seconds. If that triggers and then we hit a hold, that would be a scrub for the day. We have to refill the water tanks, can't turn it off, got to refill prop, all that stuff. So that's kind of the major watch item. You'll see a big splash under the launch mount, and if we see that go and then you hear a hold, that would mean that we're done for the day. But not.
Oh, he stopped talking. Means he's probably getting information.
And yeah, I didn't disappear. Sorry, everybody listening in as the flight director for today is going through some of the final checks. We are still red on the range for weather.
Shoot.
We are closing out prop load right now, though.
Yeah, as we wait and hear what's going on, we can just quickly review some of the test objectives for today. On the booster side, we're of course hoping for all 33 of those Raptor engines to power our ascent ahead of hot staging. And once that stage separation occurs, booster will perform that directional flip before the boost back burn. One of the interesting experiments we're doing today is upon our landing burn, which typically ends with those 3 center engines lit. We're going to be intentionally shutting one of those off and instead lighting one from the middle 10 ring. And this is just to kind of give us an idea of what it would look like if we ever had an engine out scenario.
Yeah, using our time to really push the envelope.
They're still getting
And
updates.
so at this point, we are fully closed out on our prop load. Coming up on a minute and 20, we are still red on the range for weather. So at this rate, looking likely we will hold at T-minus 40 to see if we can clear that anvil cloud roll. That's the one blocker we currently have to a launch today.
Okay, waiting to see if it holds at T40 for me. I'm watching. This clock's going to be a little funny for you guys with the delay going here and the delay to you, but
All right, and we did just
are
get confirmation, so we are expecting to hold at T-minus 40. We are still red on the range for weather, so look for the clock to pause in just a couple seconds. And pause. So we'll hang out here for a couple of minutes. We do have until the end of the window. We won't have 30 minutes of hold time to hang out, as we can't, we're essentially not replenishing prop on the vehicle at this point, so we have to keep a close eye on things like temperatures inside the tanks. We can only hold for so many minutes before things start to warm up. Surprised it's hot in South Texas. So
Yeah, while we're holding here at T-minus 40 seconds, we reviewed our test objectives for booster, but why don't we chat ship for a second? After stage separation, ship will continue onwards up through its ascent to the planned suborbital trajectory. Once it reaches there, we'll undergo SECO, or where the second stage shuts off its engines. We're hoping to deploy 8 dummy satellites today, which are modeled after Starlink V3. We're also planning to attempt a in-orbit burn, so we'll relight one of those Raptor engines while in space, and that will occur ahead of re-entry, where we'll also be testing multiple experiments, including missing tiles, metallic tiles, and intentionally loading those vehicles' flaps. And then hopefully we'll conclude today's test flight with a soft splashdown in the Indian Ocean.
yeah, definitely want to see a ship on the other side of the planet today.
Yeah.
We did just get a quick update. So the range is fully green. Weather is still red. So we are still tracking a detached anvil rule, which essentially there's an anvil cloud that's too close to our launch site, and it needs to move further away. Until it moves further away, we can't lift off. So we are expecting an update in a couple of seconds, potentially. Again, we can hang out here for several minutes. We're not actively replenishing prop. And getting an update now.
little update.
And we're getting a weather update right now.
If this holds, I likely will lose it in the clouds pretty quickly from my vantage point, which is fine.
And teams looking at it. Again, we're just tracking this anvil rule still. It's our only blocker today. Range is green, vehicle is green. Weather is currently red.
I think you should just send it.
All right, and sad voice coming in. We did just hear that we are still going to be red. So at this point, we are essentially transitioning this to be a wet dress. So wet dress is when we fully load prop on board the rocket. So we are going to see the clock probably start up again. But once they get down to 10 seconds, they're going to abort out and then we will be done for the day. So
Yeah, clock's resuming
sad
now.
news, not going to launch today. Weather got in our way, but you can only control so much. Can't always control the weather. Can't control the weather. I wish we could control the weather. We're not there yet.
Wouldn't that be nice?
Wouldn't that be nice? So we are seeing the clock rolling, but again, we're going to get down to T-minus 10 seconds, and we're going to see that kick back out, and then we're going to start offloading all of the propellant that's on board the rocket today. So if you are just tuning in, yeah, it's not going. There it goes. Back to T-minus 40. So,
Yeah.
again, we essentially turned today into a wet dress. So, today still ended up being a test.
Still learning something as always.
Yeah, still learning something. We were able to fix the issue that kind of bit us yesterday, where we had a leaky hose that was feeding liquid oxygen into the ship. But we were able to fix that, but weather got us today. So, no launch today. We do have a phenomenal logistics team, though, so we should hopefully be able to replenish prop everything. We don't have to refill all the water tanks because we didn't fire off the deflector, but we'll have to reload the prop. So very good chance that we can try again tomorrow. We'll obviously update everybody online. And, yeah, man, sorry, we couldn't go today. Don't worry, we'll probably go tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and we hope to see you when we do go for launch.
So obviously, follow our account on X at SpaceX. We'll share information as soon as it comes available. We'll also be updating the web at spacex.com. So thanks for joining us today. Exciting countdown. Weren't able to get off the ground, but we'll give it another shot tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.
Well, poop, you heard it, everybody. I'm going to transition back inside, answer a few more questions, say a few more thanks. Then probably get off air because I don't want to waste your time because there's nothing really to see or do because there was a cloud in the sky. That is the reality of rocket launches, though, is that, and that's, again, something that I'm working on a video right now about the range and what constraints are there on rockets. Like, why can't we fly through clouds? What's the risk? Ask the Apollo 12 astronauts. What the risk is. There's a reason why we don't do certain things and why we try to keep public safe by having exclusion zones and all that kind of stuff, and why there's a termination system on rockets and all that kind of stuff. So that is a video that I'm currently working on with Space Force, and it's going to be a really cool video. And I'm learning. It's one of those things. I say this a lot, but I like videos where I learn a lot. If I'm able to gain new knowledge and be able to apply that to when we're watching a rocket launch, it's like, that is good. That's a good video to me, and this is definitely going to be one of those videos. And to be able to get access to the range and actually the Range Operation Control Center at Vandenberg was awesome. Like, it was crazy. We had some rooms we couldn't even bring cameras into and stuff like that, like classified and everything. So that was really cool for me to see because I was like, yeah. Unfortunately, there's some rooms we couldn't shoot in, but we have ways of explaining to the best of our knowledge what happens in those rooms. So that's really cool. So that'll be a video that'll be coming out soon. So I'm going to head back inside and we'll transition to winding our stream down as well, even though there's still a bunch of us just kind of hanging out. I guess we can throw ourselves a little miniature pity party for a minute. So, all right, I will be right back. See you in just a minute. All right, I'm back. And yeah, like I said, bummer that this is the outcome. Yeah, I don't know what to say other than sorry you guys didn't get to see a rocket launch. Sorry that, time's been spent, but the wet dress rehearsal aspect's good for us too because we have gremlins, as you're seeing. And it's just crazy how, like, again, I have a video that we are filming kind of behind the scenes of our system, and you'll see the work that's gone into it. And just to know, like, we fire it up after it's kind of been dormant for a few months and just things like dual firewalls. I mean, like, literally server grade firewalls I reseeded the RAM today, and that seems to have fixed them. We have not re-implemented them back into the network. That's debatably not smart, just since they just failed. So I don't know. Weird that both of them had their RAM suddenly decide we don't like their RAM installed. But, you know, yeah, that's pretty much all we have today. I had a lot of super chats, so incredibly generous. Excuse me, burping. Incredibly generous things. Oh, like this from Gil, dedicated to my newborn son, Lucas Rocky. That is awesome. Congratulations, Gil, and to your family. That's fantastic. Congrats. Everyone say welcome, and that is really cool. I appreciate that. John Malone, thank you so much just for saying hi. Yeah, man, there's a lot here that I missed. Hans saying, love your channel, love the merch. Thank you so much. That's a good little reminder. If you want to support the work we do here, help us fight gremlins, you can head on over to everydayastronaut.com/shop and pick up something. One thing that's really fun to pick up is we actually did include new youth shirts. So we actually have, orbital velocity tees in youth sizes again. It's been a long time since we actually had kids apparel that's new and in stock. So we actually have new pointy end up, flaming end down, rocket orientation youth shirts, and in the baby clothes like this and stuff too. So if you want to support the work we do here, everydayastronaut.com/shop. Pick up stuff before, we do runs of stuff, and a lot of the stuff we have is on its way out and or selling out, like the rockets. So get it while you can. everydayastronaut.com/shop. Today I did the whatever I'm wearing is what we throw up on a discount. So 15% off of the Hypergolic shirt, which is that one's use coupon code launch day, all one word, all lowercase. Thank you guys so much for watching with us. But I think this is going to be it for me, guys. The weather scrub stuff is not fun because there's nothing they can do about it. And unfortunately, that you do lose commodities when it scrubs. There's a lot of boil off, and approximately 50 or 40%ish or something like that is boiled off. So you lose a lot of the propellant, but they do have a pretty robust tank farm these days. So it was pretty impressive. They said they might be able to launch again tomorrow. So we will see. Stand by for that. If they do, we'll be here. I'll be here until this thing launches, unless all of a sudden they're like, oh, we're launching in 2 months. I probably will leave at that point. But for all of you watching, I really, really do appreciate you hanging out with us here today. It does mean a lot to me and the team. And speaking of the team, huge thanks to our team for working through issues all day today. We don't know why these things happen, why you have firewalls and the main network switch go down, and I don't know why our Starlink all of a sudden backup is getting all funky, and why our air fiber link went down. Like, all these random things going down within a 48-hour period of time is just wild. And for the team here, the Cosmic Perspective team and the Everyday Astronaut team, working together to fight those gremlins, as the work for me does not go unnoticed. And I know how hard and how the people that work on this stuff are geniuses, and I'm always in awe of the work that they do. So thank you guys for pushing through and persevering. And Spencer and Andrew and Andrew. We have 3 Andrews on the team right now. Oh my word. That's crazy. I just realized we have 3 Andrews. Yeah, we have Taylor, Keating, and Clifford. So that's 3 Andrews. Too many. We're gonna have to start going by different names. And of course Ryan was running track and Steinman, working on network stuff the whole time. Crazy. So that's going to do it for me, though. I'm going to work on signing off here so we can do this again another day, hopefully a little bit better. Always iterating and always improving, right, guys? I love you guys, and it really does mean just the world to me when you guys watch with us and hang out, because, we do appreciate, we do notice, we do pay attention, and it all matters so much. So you guys are awesome. That's going to do it for me. I'm Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, bringing space down to Earth for everyday people. Goodbye, everybody.